You're also here on Facebook Live, on facebook.com/livenowdt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So however you're tuning into the show, welcome to Wake Up Call. Happy to be here with you. Like I said, inside of those Cafe Kubal studios, folks, you know Cafe Kubal is local here in our community and ever expanding. Because of you and because of your dedication to simply getting a cup of coffee, help them through one of the most difficult times we have all gone through. And we're not through it yet, so continue to be there. And when we are through it, continue to go there, because Cafe Kubal and the local companies we're proud to work with appreciate every single moment that you spend, and we really do appreciate every single dollar in our community, building our community back up. So thank you. You can find Cafe Kubal at 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse. You can also find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, in their newest location where all the roads converge in Manlius to that behemoth of a building that is brown striped, and you can't miss it. So make sure you find it. It looks like coffee coming out of the coffee maker. So find that out in Manlius at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. And a big thanks to all of you for supporting all of these wonderful places. Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, Millhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, where you can use my promo code online, maandpazpopcorn.com, promo code DT20 for 20% off. They tell you what's popping every single broadcast, giving you a list of topics along with that promo code. And we have PJ, Papa Joe, here with us every Thursday in hour number 1. And in hour number 2, you see that there's a bunch of women on this screen here. Caitlin Hadzimichalis, the head coach of Kings College women's basketball, as well as Emily O'Donnell, the assistant coach of the Coast Guard Bears women's basketball team. Amy Sokaitis, the head coach of Lebanon Valley as well, women's basketball, as well as Bridget Walsh, the assistant SID for Kings College, are all going to join me for a conversation that you cannot afford to miss about the sports world now and where it needs to be. And I can only tell you that every single topic, you just better buckle up, because every topic, everything that we're going to discuss is huge and greatly just put together by these wonderful, wonderful human beings. Caitlin, Emily, Amy, and Bridget will join me at 10 a.m. Eastern Time following Papa Joe, and we will go past 11, so buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to be a good time. And with that being said, let's bring in the man, PJ. How we doing, Papa Joe?
Morning, Daniel. I understand it's good weather up there.
Yeah, it was in the 70s yesterday. I actually took a night walk with Lily. We went out, had a little brisk, had a nice walk at night. I had a good time, and today it's going to be even warmer. I will tell you that when I was walking around with Lily, I went by a house, and it made me feel better. My Christmas tree was up forever and a day. But it's not anymore. Somebody's Christmas tree was in the window when I was walking last night.
That's great.
So I feel better that somebody else was, more. I don't know. I guess at this point, you might as well just keep it up for the rest of the year. But Papa Joe, how is life down in the Sunshine State? What can you tell me about what's going on in my second home?
Well, things are hopping down here. This is the time of the year where people just love to go outside and do a little gardening, go to the beach, jump in your pool. It's been pretty warm here. Our pool actually opened up before Mary's birthday. Usually we open it up on March the 20th, her birthday. But we jumped in it before that, a good week before that, so we're happy that the water is ready to go. Mary's oldest sister and her family's coming down next week to spend a couple of weeks with us. So we're all happy about that. Jumpin' Joe is doing fine. Him and his lady friend and his little girl, they're all right. We had him over for a little feast last night or 2 nights ago because of Easter. We had to shuffle around our schedule, so we had to give little Lily her gifts, and Joe and Kayla a little small gift.
Yeah.
We talked a lot, and we always do talk a lot. I mean, we went over to meet Kayla's parents just last week on Easter Sunday. That was very nice affair. Wonderful people, just like us, just like Mary and I, regular people love to talk, love to hug. Nothing derogatory, just warmth there, which we never had with our previous family. Let's put it that way. So, Joe's happy, the kids are happy, parents are happy. So, what can I tell you? You live and die through your kids.
Yeah, and you just said a great remark. You said you live and die through your kids, and it's so true. I mean, that's it. That's what my mom said to me. She's like, all I ever want, and my dad too, like, all I ever want is for you to be happy. Right. That's how you're, and I'm not a dad yet to a human, but to Lily, I mean, I look at my dog and I'm like, all I ever want is for her to be happy. Last night she was sleeping and she was wagging her tail in her sleep. And I was like, "Aw, she must be having a good dream," and it made me happy. And so, like, it's amazing how be it an animal, be it a person, whatever. But that feeling of somebody that belongs to you, somebody that's you're supposed to take care of, being happy, and that's the thing that I'll never forget two things of my mom and recently here. And my mom and I, we had dinner and we were driving out of a place and this past year, and she just started to tear up. And I was like, "Mom, what's going on?" And she goes, "Nothing." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "Not you. Not you." And I said, "What?" And she said, what happened to you could have happened to anybody, but it should have never happened to you. And, she's like, "You're the best of all of us." And when she said that, feeling that, like, you should have never had to go through this, you're too good for it. And, remembering that of my mom, and then my mom looking at me saying, all a parent ever wants is to see their child happy. And so, I mean, those moments of my mom just being emotional in different ways for the same thing of, like, this is what you deserve. And then my father having a conversation with me going, like, if I say, "Oh, Dad, in the past I'd talk about somebody," and he goes, "We already know that this person's going to be a problem. We know, like, you deserve to have the best, don't ever settle." And my parents, because of everything I've been through, they both kind of told me in a way that, like, they're very cautious now because they've only seen their son get hurt. They've never seen their son treated well, for the most part. And that, to me, is incredible. And I know that what you just said, you're essentially saying the same thing, that, you and Mary, for Joey, it's you do everything you can to see your kids happy, and you can't protect them from the world, but you can be there. And I think, I don't know, I think it's a beautiful thing that my parents, as well as you and Mary, all have the same mindset of the hopes and the well wishes of your children, and just the fact that you will do everything that you possibly can to be there. Parents like you all are what this world needs.
It was nice of you to say that. That's nice.
And you deserve it, PJ. You're a good one. You adopted me as another meatball, so you got me too. So, but living the dream and living today. We have so much to get into and so much to talk about with Papa Joe. It's a very exciting day. Today's show is going to be incredible. Like I said, the wonderful people that are coming up following Papa Joe. You don't want to miss a second of that. You don't want to miss a second of this. Today's broadcast touches my heart and really should make you think and make you feel, and I hope that it does. And we'll start things off here, obviously, talking about a lot of different things with Papa Joe. PJ, I'm going to start with the Masters. The Masters starts officially today in Augusta, and so you and I have a lot to unpack here. I know you're a big fan. I know you'll be watching. So tell me about your thoughts on the Masters.
Well, this is the time of the year that actually the golf season really starts. All the majors start lining up right after the Masters, and the best players try to hone their games to win the big tournaments that are important. The Masters has always had exciting games. There's always been a lot of action, activity, so much fun to watch, unbelievable shots. hole-in-ones, 50-foot putts, 400-yard drives, stuff that the regular golf fan just can't really enjoy because the regular golf fans is not very good. But to get to Augusta National Golf Course is that's where they play the Masters, and they played it there for centuries.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with Augusta is they always tried to mess around with the course. Back years ago when Tiger did his thing when he was healthy and not messing around with a bunch of women, he tore the course apart. And eventually what Augusta did is they say Tiger-proofed it, quote unquote. They just had to move some tees back, put a tree in a fairway here somewhere, make the greens a little bit slipperier, just a few tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
Granted, it's still a hard golf course, but it doesn't play that hard. I mean, it's short by the pro standards because there's so many holes that they can reach into on the par fives and even drive a par four. Then you got Bryson DeChambeau, who's come up with this muscle routine here where he put on 40 pounds over the winter and hits the ball 350 yards and starts winning tournaments. So now guys are trying to think, well, maybe if I bulk up a little bit too, I can do what he does. But in this particular course, you don't have to do that. You just have to hit it straight. You got to be able to shape it left or right with a hook or a slice. You got to be able to have good iron play, and above all, you got to be able to putt the Augusta greens. The Augusta greens typically are very fast. They're called something like 13 or 14 on the stimp meter. For those that are not familiar with golf, the stimp meter is a little gadget that they roll, that they put on the greens and roll a golf ball to see how fast the greens are. And then they assign it a little number. So if you're 13 or 14 on the stimp meter, they're running real fast. 10 is about average. So even if you hit the greens at Augusta, you still have a monumental problem just trying to get the ball in the hole and par. I do have some golfers that I like to look at. Some guys are rounding into shape now.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth especially just won last week. Probably the best feel-good story in golf in the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years, is Jordan Spieth winning a golf tournament. Jordan Spieth came on the scene 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, as a can't-miss star, and he delivered. The only problem with that is your expectations get so high that your golf game doesn't keep up with it, and that's what happened with him. He got into a little bit of a slump, had a different swing change, chipping, putting, different. So for almost 4 years, he really struggled, and the golf community does not want to see that. They want to see good guys finish first and good guys play well, and he's a good guy. I mean, he's just a wonderful young man. Married his high school sweetheart, and he's just he's a great guy. So to make a long story short, watching him this last weekend, winning the Texas Valero Open, brought to mind how good this kid can actually play golf. Yeah. He was 18 under par for 72 holes, and that ain't hay. So he's playing well. But in saying that, you just don't know if it's going to carry over to the next week. If it does, he's going to be very competitive. Of course, the leader going into the tournament, Dustin Johnson, who was a beast, hits the ball a mile, won last year's Masters at 20 under par. So I guess all the Tiger proofing they did years ago didn't help against some of these guys. When these guys can shoot 18 and 20 under par, especially at Augusta, the course lays down, and the course lays down, and these guys just overpower it. And DJ's that kind of guy. He shapes it from left to right and from right to left. For a big man, 6'4", 220, for a big man, he's good around the greens, chips, putts wonderfully, stand saves are good. So to me, he's my one favorite. The other favorite is JT. We call JT Justin Thomas, another of the new kids that hit it big along with Spieth. He's won majors. He's won several tournaments. Hits the ball well, shapes the ball well, strikes the ball well. With these kind of courses, you're going to have different lies, side hill, uphill, downhill, whatever. You got to be able to strike the ball. And whoever hits the ball the best, the purest, is the one that's going to reach the green, and then you got a chance for a score. Alexander Schauffele has been playing well for the last year. He's missed out on a couple of tournaments in the last day. Not like him. He's an excellent golfer. Lee Westwood, one of the old stars of years ago, is 47, 48 years old, and he's won a tournament just a couple of weeks ago, and he's starting to feel good about himself. Guess he's shaping up for the 50 league. I got Patrick Reed, who is the favorite son over there because he went to Augusta State and played golf for them before he went to Georgia. Patrick Reed is the guy that everyone loves to hate because they keep accusing him of cheating. He doesn't cheat, but people accuse him of cheating. Maybe he skirts the rules every once in a while, but he's a great ball striker and loves Augusta because he played it so many times growing up next to it. Justin Rose from England is typically every year is a major force in any tournament he plays. He's much older than he was years ago when he broke onto this team. He's been playing golf almost 20 years, and it won majors. And he's just a good golfer, great all-around golfer. The golfer that won last week a match play tournament, even though it's a different kind of format, was Billy Horschel, and he lives here in the area here in St. Augustine. He's a Gator, of course, go Gators. And he won his match play tournament and won something like $2 million. So his game is starting to shape up. Bryson DeChambeau, I already talked about him. Bryson is there's no rhyme or reason with Bryson. He's nothing subtle about him. He's going to try to overpower the golf tournament, or overpower the golf course, therefore overpowering a golf tournament. If he can hit wedges into par fives, crying out loud, and wedges on the most par fours, he can give himself a chance to hit the ball around the hole so he can make some putts. That's a good theory, but he's got to go out and do it. I mean, even though they tiger-proofed Augusta, it can be a very difficult golf tournament, especially if it's a little cool, the wind's blowing. But if it lays down, these guys are going to knock it out. Rory McIlroy, of course, is a major factor every time he tees it up. I like him a little bit here, too. There's another guy from England called Tommy Fleetwood who went all over the world. He has not won the United States yet, but he's knocking at the door. He hits the ball fabulously, really click shots, putts well, chips well, sand shots. He's got them all. That's an overview of what you're looking for. The person that needs to win this golf tournament this year is that you've got to keep the ball in the fairway, which means you don't have to hit it 900 miles. Keep the ball in the fairway. Play the course the way it lays. Don't try to play the course any different than what it is. Yeah. You know, there's par fives that are reachable in two, which therefore offer birdie opportunities and eagle opportunities. So, you know, Augusta won't lay down unless the weather kicks up. If the weather kicks up, the scoring is going to be a little bit difficult. But if the fairways are going to be in magnificent condition, the greens are going to be very fast, as I've explained about the centimeter. So you're going to see some really good golf. And the guy that can hold it together, you know, you can shoot 68, then on a final day, shoot a 70 and get lost. So, you know, if the players start playing well, start scoring early, and of course lays down for them, then the score will be probably right around -20 like last year with Dustin Johnson. They tried it. You know, Augusta's always had a bunch of problems with their image. They're just frankly, they're just a bunch of lazy old Southern gentlemen who just don't give a crap about nothing. You know, they think that their golf course and their golf club is pristine, and they don't want anyone else in it. You can't even get in the damn thing. I mean, it's $250,000 to join the thing. They kept out women, they kept out blacks all these years. Now they've opened up the doors a little bit. So, you know, for the people around the country that see this, they think that Augusta is racist, and they are. There's no question about it. I'm not going to argue that fact. I mean, hell, there's plenty of black golfers that I would love to see play over there. And for any, I mean, you got to be if you're a black guy or a black woman and you're a CEO of a company, perhaps maybe if you apply, they'll give you a consideration, and then perhaps you can join. So, you know, a lot of the guys, they just, you know, say, "Ah, the hell with it. I'll just go play somewhere else," you know. So but Augusta's always had that problem with their image.
Yeah.
They seem to think that they're better than anyone just because they're the Masters. We'll see where it goes. I want to see the golfers play. I don't care about the image. I just want to see the golfers play well. I want to see someone emerge from the pack that drives the ball well, has good iron shots, and putts well, and then you'll see him as a champion. So I'm looking forward to it, as I do every year. And I'll give you a good opinion about next week about the winner. So whoever it is, I know him pretty well. So there's a little snapshot of what people can appreciate, especially the skill of these guys. And you won't be able to, the course will not be playing that long if it's dry. If it's dry and the fairways are running fast, the greens are running fast, it could pose a problem. If the wind is not up, it's not raining, it's not cold, the golf course should be very easily taken.
Yeah, and you giving all of this background on the Masters, truly awesome for everybody that's, maybe just getting into it now, or, someone who is an average fan or whatever that may be, that you broke down a lot of different pieces of it, a lot of different elements of it, and, some history, which I think is fantastic as people get set to watch it today and really get into this thing. For you, PJ, I mean, when was that something that you like to do? I mean, when you could go out and golf, were you ever into that, even just for the fun of it, or have you always just rather liked to watch?
No, I was a good player years ago, Daniel. I was a 2 handicap for many years, and I played really well I played well up until in my 40s, and then just the last 10 years or so, because of my mobility issues and my cancer issues, that I haven't played at all, and I can't play anymore because now I'm disabled. I can't even stand up on a tee and hit the ball. So knowing the game the way I do and the way I used to play it, it tugs at my heartstrings a little bit too that I can't play anymore. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the format. I enjoyed the competition. I enjoy the course. As I stated several times, if it's tricky out there and if the wind is blowing and it's raining a little bit, the course will be tough. But if not, it'll lay down. So you'll see very quickly after the first round if some nondescript people, I call them, wind up leading a golf tournament, you'll know it's playing easier.
And so for you, PJ, like you said, to be able to play back then and have an appreciation for it now and a connection for it now, for those that maybe don't watch golf or don't get excited about it or maybe never got into it, what would you say to them to give it a chance? What about it do you think is special?
Well, actually, it's individualism is what it is. And it gives you an opportunity to really dig into yourself. I mean, there's no one that you can... You're by yourself out there. You're on an island. If you're playing golf tournaments, which I played in many of them, and the one, if you're an island out there. No one's going to help you. No one's going to come from the gallery and say, Joe, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. You really find out a lot about yourself, especially in pressure situations. And these guys, it's how difficult it is to try to win a golf tournament, period, let alone the Masters. There's so many guys that hit the ball well, score well, but they don't have the regular makeup to compete every week because they're just missing a little something. And the guys I just mentioned a little while ago, they don't miss a lot. So even if they mess up a little bit, they're still going to come back with some birdies and get themselves back in the tournament. It's going to be a hell of a tournament to watch, and the cream will come to the top. Usually when people watch golf tournaments, they say, oh, it's so boring. I said, oh, it's just like watching grass grow. And I said, well, it's true. You're watching grass grow. But there's an old saying that says you don't watch the Masters until the back nine of the last day. And frankly, the last 9 holes on Sunday will make or break the tournament and the lives of some of these guys.
Coming from Papa Joe this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, PJ and I will talk about Major League Baseball. Last week we talked about baseball being ushered in on April 1st, the first day of the season, opening day, with all teams supposed to be in action, but COVID changed that for some. We'll talk with Papa Joe on all of that and more right after this. Major League Baseball coming up next, as well as NFL moves and his overall thoughts on the NCAA tournaments for men and women right after this fast break.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, every single Thursday we're hanging out here with PJ from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. He's got his normal post, and we appreciate always having him here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we appreciate having you here on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage where the MixLR feed is embedded, as well as on video on Facebook Live, on facebook.com/livenowdt, on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So however you're connecting with the show, thank you so much for being a part of it this morning. PJ and I talked about the Masters before the first fast break, and now we're talking about baseball. So last week, Ross Turetsky and Papa Joe both joined me to speak on the ushering in of the 2021 Major League Baseball season. Now a week into it, PJ, what can you tell me? You got all the games thanks to Mary T. You got that MLB ticket. So what has it been like for you a week into the season? What are your thoughts?
Oh, boy, I tell you, the MLB channel is just unbelievable. I have the ability to put up 8 games at once and just flip around from game to game. It's so much fun, and in your later years, especially me being disabled like this, I got to look forward to something. So, every afternoon around 1 o'clock or so, I'll put on the TV. Sometimes I'll catch an afternoon game and watch it, and then at night you'll pick up another game if it's not too late. I've been in, the season. It's too early to do anything, to say anything about anything. There's just things haven't leveled down yet. You got COVID still out there messing around with the Washington Nationals, they had to cancel a couple games because they had so many guys that had it. I don't understand what's happening with that. I don't know how baseball's doing it. I hope that they're testing every one of their players every week, because if not, it can turn out to be a real hornet's nest, and we don't need that. In most cases, the good teams are playing pretty good. Some of the poor teams are playing better, but the season will even everything out. And then you got in the American League East, you got Baltimore and New York and Toronto are all tied. They're all right around 500. No one's moved away there. New York is definitely the class of the league, the class of this division. If they run out 5 or 6 in a row, this particular division, the race for the championship could be a lot shorter than the rest of the league, because there's not really a lot of good players anymore in the division, because Boston gave away some of their players. Toronto just got a few in, which they're playing better too. But New York is the class. You live and die by what New York does. The Central Division, you got Kansas City leading. The rest of them, it's all 2-3 and 3-2. No, nothing really happening there. The West Division, Houston, World Series champion 3 years ago. They are leading the league. And my Angels, finally, are running second. And they finally got Mike Trout some help. Got Anthony Rendon coming over there, signed him up to $300 million. They got a few good arms.
Yeah.
Trout is hitting 365 with a couple of homers and 6 RBIs, so he'll carry the team. There's no doubt about that. But if their pitching holds up, it's going to be between Houston and Los Angeles. Houston, wonderful team, loaded like they were 3 years ago. Same players. They lost one player, George Springer, to Toronto, but they're solid. I found this to be very amusing. One of the teams that they were playing started throwing trash cans on the field and banging on trash cans when they're in the fan area because of how they cheated 3 years ago. Do you remember that? Remember how they cheated?
Yeah, and I know that they said, I guess the question still going on is, should people be heckling the Astros? Should it still be going on? I mean, it's a conversation that's lasted last season and now into this season. I know that.
Well, they deserve anything they get. The only good thing is that they've got a Hall of Fame manager, Dusty Baker, who's won around the league. Dusty himself is in his mid-70s, and he's kind of a black guy too. Very, very laid-back guy, excellent player, Hall of Fame player, good player and good manager for years. One person to bring the sanity to a low level was bringing in someone like him. And he manages his team well. He knows the kids, and he's not going to get caught up in any of this other kind of stuff. So I'm looking, Houston is going to be there. The Angels in the West. I look for Oakland. Oakland won their first game yesterday. They lost 6 in a row to start. They won their first game, so I look for them to come back a little bit. They're a much too good team to sit back in the cellar. National League, you got in the East, you got Philadelphia and Washington. Washington's not playing any games because they got some guys that are sick. But Philadelphia is starting to hit the ball better. They got some good pitching. The Mets are, again, a couple of guys got sick for them. They couldn't play them. The Mets are really the class of the league, the class of this particular division, because of their pitching and their hitting. And they brought, of course, Francisco Lindor from Cleveland is now with the Mets, and he alone is going to be worth several wins just on his play alone. So I look forward to watching him. I've watched him a couple of times already. I've watched more baseball in the last week than I have in the last 10 years, because I never been good at any game. Now I can see Los Angeles and Trout play, thankfully. I can finally watch my Brewers play, and I'm getting to them. So, the Central Division, you got Cincinnati leading, Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee. They're all playing 500 ball. Cincinnati's not going to go anywhere. I don't think they're strong enough to hang it. Milwaukee, they brought in some good players. Milwaukee has they live and die by their pitching, because hitting they can score 10 runs a game if they need to. They have a powerful lineup, but pitching is always the name of the game. Got the West Division, got Los Angeles and San Diego leading that division. That's what I said a month ago. You got Los Angeles and San Diego are the cream of the crop, and the whole National League, I don't care what division you're in, is going to go through Los Angeles and San Diego. San Diego spent millions and millions of dollars to bring in some absolute fabulous players. And you heard me mention about the Dodgers with Clayton Kershaw and his group. They'll always be in the game because of their pitching. So you get a little rundown there, and it's really too early to say if anyone's going to run away to a division. They're trying to settle down. Actually, the managers are still trying to figure out who they want to play. They got a starting lineup on there, but that's not cut in stone. So whoever gets on a nice hot streak will maybe carry a team for a couple of games. But mostly with baseball, it's pitching. It's pitching and defense. All these guys can kill the ball, and it's just a matter of which pitcher and pitching staff can carry a team. Pitching and defense win national championships, Daniel. Pitching and defense.
And I mean, and it is true. I mean, teams that can hit like crazy, that's all great and well, but when you face a great pitcher, it's a different world. And like you said, defense wins championships. That's across all kinds of sports, all different sports. Defense is what shuts it down. And I mean, we saw that in the NCAA tournament, a perfect segue for the men's side of things, what Baylor was able to do. Stanford going up, Stanford in their game against Arizona was heartbreaking for Arizona, 1 point, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But what you were talking about, defense wins championships, Baylor's defense was harassing. They never, ever slowed down the entire game. Yes, offensively, they hit shots, which helped them to get guys to cheat outside so they could send it in or have guys in to cheat it out. I mean, everything was working for them. So offensively, you were attacking the rim and making 3-point shots, which caused Gonzaga to have to cover everything all the time, which was strugglesome for them. And, at the same time, Baylor just attacked offensively. They forced you to either foul them or they were going to get to the basket. They passed the ball very well. They blocked shots. They were extremely effective on the offensive glass and on the glass in general. They boxed out. They did all the things that a team should do trying to win a championship. They came out like a swarm, and that's how they won. So you talk about defense winning championships when we were speaking on baseball. Well, let's bring that over into basketball. What you could tell me about Baylor, because, yeah, they scored 86 points, but they also were strong defensively, and they played a complete game to defeat Gonzaga.
Well, I did watch some of the game for a while, and I could tell right away that Baylor, being as physical as they are, they slapped Gonzaga upside the head, and Gonzaga didn't respond. I've been waiting for someone to do that all year. I mean, I thought that Gonzaga, of course, Gonzaga is a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. Undefeated. It's not that they won't play the brutal schedule, but the teams that they did play that were good, they won. So, yeah. But I still waited for all year long. I waited for somebody to slap them upside the head or smash them in the mouth, and that's what Baylor did. They intimidated them. They fouled them. They fouled them, and no calls were called. But when you play a team like Baylor that is so big and so physical, you get worn down. And Gonzaga just didn't answer the call. And the one fear that I had all year long was someone's going to slap them upside the head and they're not going to respond, and they didn't respond. So kudos to Baylor because they deserved it. Suffocating defense just to physically beat the hell out of Gonzaga.
And to win that championship, it did it. From the first second on. In the women's game, it was different, PJ. In the women's NCAA tournament finale, the teams were right there with each other, and Aari McDonald did everything she could, made 3 of 4 free throws at the end of the game. If she had made the fourth, arguably, if other things didn't happen, they could have gone to overtime. A 54-53 win for Stanford over Arizona. I know that the women's game is something that means a lot to you as well. And with what's coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern time with Hodge as well as with Amy and Emily and Bridget, we talk about the fact that the NCAA tournament is the NCAA tournament, and the men's and women's game should both be watched if you love basketball. And, we dispel a lot of things in this upcoming conversation about, why the women's game gets such a bad rap, because they say it's not this and they say it's not that, when in actuality, it's a lot of great things. And Stanford was able to win this game by a point, 54-53, with 2 Pac-12 teams playing. What are your thoughts on how things ended? UConn didn't make it to the end. Kudos to Arizona for that, who won by 10 points in that game. And Stanford was able to edge out South Carolina, who missed 2 shots at the rim, close range at the buzzer. So Stanford comes away with it. Arizona came away with a lot of people's hearts going to Arie McDonald. What are your thoughts on how the women's tournament ended?
It was a great tournament. I watched all the games. Listen, if you're a basketball purist, and you really got to be a basketball purist, you've got to love the women's game. That is the way basketball is played. Under the rim, not over the rim, good defense. They're cutting, making free throws, getting rebounds, fast breaks, short breaks, three-point shooting. You got to love college basketball. You got to love the women's game. I don't understand why they don't get more press. I mean, they're just those are 4 really, really good teams. Now, my UConn girls came up a little flat. This is not typical of Gino when he plays a big game like that. Gino actually got out-coached in this game by Arizona's coach. Fine young lady, a nice young lady who's probably going to make herself a lot of money if she goes to another school. I don't know if Arizona can pay the money that she's going to want to stay there. But Gino couldn't find the right combination. And when you out-coach Gino, that means that you played a better game than his. Chances are that in most cases, UConn has the best talent on the floor. But they played 7 freshmen and 2 juniors. Gino likes to play at least seven player rotation, sometimes 8. But he put all his freshmen in a situation year long to excel, and they did. And they came up with the National Player of the Year in Paige Buchner, who's remarkably young. I don't know how this girl is so poised coming out of high school. I couldn't believe that she was doing the things she was doing in college. I mean, no one could guard this girl. I mean, she's that good. Defense, rebound, stealing, all sorts of things. Gino got out-coached, and Arizona probably should have won the game. But I'm glad for Stanford because Tara Vanderveer is one of my favorite coaches of all time.
Yeah.
She's another Hall of Fame coach. She's she's there. She's class. And each year she gravitates. The kids gravitate to her up there in the Northwest. She recruits nationally, but mostly in the West and the Southwest. She has her girls. She has a certain kind of player that she likes to recruit, and she does that, as does Gino. So South Carolina will be there again next year. They're loaded too, and they've had actually a couple of freshmen play this year. I thought one freshman played better than Bukers. I can't think of her name now, but we get to see South Carolina a lot, and of course UConn. But it's a typical thing. I know west part of the coast. Yeah. I didn't get to see Stanford play that much. Arizona, I never saw one game until it was in the tournament. So you don't have an opinion about these guys. But once you see them play, you know that they're well coached. Folks, listen. Forget about the men's college game for being exciting. If you want to watch basketball in its purity, watch women.
And I love that you said that. And a beautiful statement that will lead us into hour number 2 in just a few minutes here. PJ, for me, everything you just said about that. I mean, if you love basketball at its purest, then watch the women's game and support that. And you brought up the fact that we didn't see Arizona all season, and the reality that these games aren't on, that things aren't televised. And I mean, what are your thoughts to the fact that the NCAA women's basketball tournament is actually, all the games are on TV now. They used to not all be on TV. We used to see all the men's games and the women's games wouldn't be on. Maybe UConn would be on. Maybe Stanford would be on. Maybe Pat Summitt in Tennessee, rest in peace, Pat. Maybe that would be on. But outside of that, we didn't see any games. So what can you say to that part of it, that they don't televise these games, and now they're starting to? So that's part 1. Part 2, Adia Barnes, the head coach of the Arizona team, was asked to apologize for being in her own team's huddle and saying things to them about people that didn't believe in them and swearing. I see people swear all the time in sports. I've read Jim Boeheim's lips for my entire life, and I know that a lot of things he's saying aren't like, hi, how are ya? So what are your thoughts on, number one, that we don't get to watch these games normally, and number two, what are your thoughts on the fact that there are people in this world that asked Adia Barnes to apologize for celebrating with her team in the way that she did and swearing when people have sworn in the men's game since the beginning of the men's game?
When you delve into college athletics, you're going from high school, you're going to college. You're dealing with men and women, not kids anymore, and it's just coaching that way. That's just the way they do things. I don't particularly like that, but if this young lady wants to fire up her team by swearing in the huddle and to fire them up, I don't have a problem with that. Look at Gino got out coached in that game. He actually, frankly, I think UConn wasn't ready for Arizona. I thought maybe they were 13-point favorites. I mean, they thought that they were going to slip past Arizona and play Stanford for the whole thing. And again, that's not the way Gino does it. Gino always has his players ready to play, but he didn't this time. The women's sports in general, they've been beat up over the years forever. They don't give enough help. They don't have enough money. They don't have this and that. They don't play well. That's all junk. I even watch women tumbling, gymnastics, soccer. I like to see women excel like that. And the more that the women do this under Tara and Gino and the new coaches that are coming up, Dawn Staley at South Carolina, they are doing it the right way. We just don't have enough UConns and South Carolina. Things are, the top to the bottom is just not anywhere being close or relevant. So when you see every year the same 4 teams or the same 8 teams in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16, you still see the same powerhouse programs that recruit the best and coach the best. And those are the ones that we see all the time. And frankly, those are the ones that we want to see on television too. I don't mind watching a good college basketball game if, say, South Carolina is playing someone like Oregon State or something like that. I never get to see Oregon State, but I see South Carolina a lot. So then I can form an opinion on Oregon State, who was playing really well. And, then I can say, well, I can follow them, and I know, well, I caught that game with South Carolina. These girls aren't any pushovers. So, and they need more exposure. They need more exposure, and then certainly they need more money in their athletic budgets to level the field with the men. The women don't have enough. They don't have the correct weight rooms. They don't have good enough locker rooms. They don't have good enough. Period. And the athletic directors have got to look at this square in the eye and say, listen, we need to do some upkeep here. You can't go to the University of Florida and see both teams have locker rooms that are outrageous. Florida makes $100 million a year on their game. So the women's teams in general have always been slighted, and I want to see that. I want to see that equate. Probably not in my lifetime, but maybe in the next 10 years, maybe there'll be some equality with the men and women's sports teams.
Yeah, and obviously it needs to happen. And, I mean, it shouldn't even have been a question beforehand, and there's so much coming up here in hour number 2 to address these issues that PJ brought up that I appreciate so much you taking the time to do that. Papa Joe, final note here, NFL moves, really the big one, Sam Darnold of this week. Sam Darnold in his rookie contract still, been in the rookie contract. It's 3 years with the Jets, and he had this year and potentially another year if they picked up an option on him. They're deciding to let him go to the Panthers for a 2nd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a 6th rounder. He heads to the Carolina Panthers, which means Teddy Bridgewater's probably done in Carolina, and that means that at number 2 overall, the Jets are probably drafting a quarterback. I think they're going to go with Zach Wilson out of BYU. What are your thoughts on the movement that affected Sam Darnold's career, Teddy Bridgewater's career, and obviously told us that the Jets, just 3 years after having Sam Darnold, are going to try at another franchise quarterback?
There's nothing wrong with the way Sam Darnold plays football. He's a good, solid quarterback, big arm. You know, he was stuck in New York for 2 years with inferior coaching, not good enough game plans, didn't have enough talent around him. He gets the crap beat out of him. So what do? They wind up, instead of building the team around him, they wind up getting rid of him. Now they got to start all over again. They're probably going to draft, you're right, they're going to draft Wilson from BYU. Now, as for him going to Carolina, you know, I thought Teddy Bridgewater was a bridge to begin with, but I've always been a Teddy Bridgewater fan. I'm back when Minnesota, when he shattered both of those legs like that, I was crying, the poor kid. Then he comes back on the field, sits behind Drew Brees for a while, and then lands a big contract for Carolina. Teddy Bridgewater can still play this game. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got a decent enough arm. He can't run around the way Teddy used to run around. And if you've heard me enough, I don't want to see quarterbacks running around anyway. So, Teddy, stay put. Don't worry about it. Your arm will get you through. Now you got a situation where you're going to have some quarterback competition. They're not going to. Teddy's not going to lay down and give Donald the job. You know, he's going to fight him for it. And I hope that the coaches see that. I mean, just because they got Sam Donald doesn't mean he's going to start right away. Yeah. You know, Teddy's got the word in this deal.
You know, and that's the thing is Teddy. I just want to see him play. You know, I'm like you. I'm a fan. I covered him when he was at Louisville, and you know, got to see him play live. So I want better for him. He deserves it, and hopefully he'll get it. That coming from Papa Joe here. With so many things we got to talk about. The Masters starting today. Major League Baseball in full swing, as well as the opportunity to speak on the NCAA tournaments for men's and women's basketball. And, of course, a little note on the NFL. Big words coming from PJ about the women's game, and we have the opportunity to speak about it with incredible people coming up right after this fast break. Papa Joe, as always, I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Okay, Dan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to take a very quick step aside here on the broadcast, and when we come back, I will be joined by Caitlin Hadzimichalis, the head coach of King's College women's basketball team, Emily O'Donnell, the assistant coach of Coast Guard's women's basketball team, Amy Sokaitis, the head coach of the Lebanon Valley College women's basketball team, and Bridget Walsh, the assistant SID at King's College with Hodge. They will all be coming up next as we discuss the sports world now and where it needs to be. That is coming up inside of the Cafe Kubal studios right after this.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code AVS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicoli's, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9Campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9Campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop on obviously mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as facebook.com/live-now-dt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So a lot of places to listen and watch. You see these wonderful people on the screen with me right now. Caitlin Hadzimichalis, the head coach at King's College, and someone that I know from my broadcasting days with MU Courtside at Marywood University. We have Bridget Walsh here, the assistant SID at King's College. We have Amy Sokaitis, who is here with us, the head coach of Lebanon Valley, and Emily O'Donnell, an assistant coach at the Coast Guard. So first and foremost, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we are here today to talk about a lot of different things, a lot of topics on the mind. And so we'll go round robin and make sure that we get each of your thoughts on these topics. And if anything comes up within it, then obviously, feel free to speak up and we'll discuss that as well in case I miss something. But Caitlin, I'm going to start with you because you helped to put this awesome group together today. Tell me why Amy, Emily, and Bridget, you wanted so much for them to be a part of the discussion today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, coaching wise, I've known Amy probably the longest with it. And then Emily, I coached against her, or sorry, Emily coached against her. And then she was a player at Albright. Then she coached over at Misericordia in conference. And I got to know her a little bit through Amy, coaching wise. And I think she's got great energy, young up and coming, trying to, get herself out there. So great personality. I want to get Em on there. Like I said, Amy and I go way back this year, especially with everything. We've been kind of bouncing a lot of ideas off each other and trying to keep each other sane throughout the pandemic and coaching in it. So we even got to sneak out and go snowboarding a bit. So she's a good personal friend. And then Bridget, she beat us up for 4 years at DeSales, and then we were good enough to steal her over at Kings. And I think, again, great up and coming sports information director. So just want to get her out there. She knows the game and also helps our program out. So wanted to get her on here as well.
Fair enough. So Emily, tell me something about Caitlin. Why connect with Caitlin? What can you say about her? You've heard what she's had to say about each of you. What can you say about Caitlin?
She's just brought so much to my life as a coach and then personally as well. I coached against her for 2 years as an assistant at Misericordia. Connected a little bit on the court there, but then got to know her better through Amy, just at the Final Four of the convention, and then through the pandemic, again, like she said, keeping each other sane, having coaches calls, meetups where we talked through what we were doing with our teams, and she's just brought a lot to like the group that we have, and then helped me personally and like as a coach.
Awesome. Amy, what can you tell me about Caitlin as well as these snowboarding trips?
Yeah, well, so if I'm the serious person in the room, then Caitlin and Emily are the one that lighten everything up. So we need them for that. But no, we just started talking hoops when we first met, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago now, and just kept talking. And so when everything kind of hit the fan last March, Caitlin, Emily, and then another about 4 or 5 other coaches or so, we started doing weekly Zooms just to talk about, like Emily said, anything from what you're doing with your team to what you're going through, personally. A bunch of us live alone, so it was like, hey, we have nobody around us. We need friends. Can we Zoom? And I think just leaning on each other as much as we can. And Caitlin is a new snowboarder. She's getting pretty good pretty fast, so that's pretty fun.
Awesome. Bridget, you heard Caitlin say that she had to go up against you, kind of deal with you on another side for a long time. So what's it like to be on the same team now? What can you tell me about Caitlin?
Well, I first off wouldn't have my job today without Hodge. So huge shout out to her for putting my name out there and getting me into this position in the first place. She's just got a super infectious personality, and she's so dedicated in everything she does. And you can just tell by getting any conversation with her how invested she is in the game and growing the women's game and how passionate she is. So it's super great to have gotten to know her and be on this call today.
So we have this opportunity to talk about a little bit of everything. This year's tournament, let's discuss as far as, and I'll go around the horn, and Bridget, I'm going to stay with you here first. What was your most exciting game or most exciting moment of this women's basketball tournament? What was that, moment or two that you're going to take with you?
Definitely just the increased media exposure as a sports information person. Obviously, that's something I take a lot of pride in and really pay attention to. And all the games being broadcasted through ESPN and their partner networks, ABC, being able to see all that basketball in such a short amount of time and such a national broadcasting perspective was amazing. I've never been able to watch so much basketball in such a short amount of time and be able to really just enjoy all of the different aspects of the game. Personally, I wasn't able to watch as much as I would have liked because we're in the middle of spring sports season, so we had softball and baseball and everything under the sun going on. But being able to watch like the UConn-Iowa game and being able to see such young talent go head-to-head was probably one of my favorite moments so far of the tournament.
And what about you, Amy? What can you say was a moment or two? And Bridget, thank you for that. I mean, we'll talk about the exposure issue and how that's changed this year, but we'll talk about that coming up here. Amy, what was your favorite moment or moments of the women's tournament this year?
There was a lot. I think that we've got more parity right now in women's college basketball than we've ever had. So there's upsets or tighter games than there should be or than we think there will be. My favorite game, though, I was actually on a United Airlines flight coming back from Washington, and I was able to watch the entire Texas-Maryland game on the plane. And I think every single person around me thought I was crazy, but I was verbally yelling at the screen, and it was just such an amazing game. Like, if I had to say what I thought the best game in the tournament was, people may disagree, but I just love the physicality and the way Texas forced their will on a really good offensive Maryland team. It was super fun to watch. So I love that game.
Awesome. Emily, what about you? What's the moment or moments for you?
One thing about the whole tournament is I love watching all the emotions, the good and the bad. The bad hurt a little bit because you think it's back to your own stuff. But the one game that really stood out to me was the A&M and Iowa game. Watching that one, our coaching staff group chat was blowing up. We're like, okay, there's this much time left. What do you think they're going to do? And just talking through that, especially with such a tight game and extra time and that kind of stuff. That was a really interesting, fun game to watch.
And Hodge, for you, is there a moment or two that sticks out from this year's tournament?
Yeah, I think my favorite part, I'm on the Arie McDonald train all the way. Sign me up. Wherever that bus is rolling, I am on it. I am fired up. Let's do it. Early on, I love, like Amy said, all the parity, all the tight games, the Caitlin Clark Page matchup, everything else. The Maryland-Texas game was insane. I think all the games that day were insane. But when you go through and you watch Arizona, everybody was kind of counting them out early. And I remember thinking, the way they play defense, I don't know if UConn's ready for that. So not saying I called it because I didn't, but I was a little more intrigued in that matchup than I think a lot of people were giving it credit off the bat. And then you go ahead and leave them out of a promo. They kind of showed you what happened when you do that. So, right. So you gotta get on the whole Arizona train. I'm in.
You know, and McDonald did, and I said before we went on here that, you know, she stole my heart too, all 5'6" of her, you know, and the just incredible play, the speedy play. And she did everything she could in the championship game, scored 22 points, the only member of Arizona's starting five to get in double figures at all. You know, I'll stay with you, Hodge, on this. Why, you know, Arie McDonald's, you know, what did she do for women's basketball and what did she do for this country? Because so many of us have that feeling. We just, you know, it was almost an uncontrollable urge to root for her. You watch the game for 5 minutes and you kind of jump in her corner.
I think one of the main reasons is it was the first time we all got to see her, or the first time we heard about her, the first time she got any exposure. And one, why the heck are we waiting this long? I think if we maybe saw more games on TV, like Bridget alluded to earlier, then we could have been on this train much earlier and had a lot more fun. But I think the fact that she did come in and she was herself, she did it her way, just like Arizona themselves did it their way. I think she knew her skill set. She didn't go above or beyond it. She did what she does. Like, she's so fast. She can snake behind the pick and rolls, and she kept her swag while she did it. I think that's what was endearing, is that, okay, she's got swag, but you can see how hard she's working on both ends of the floor. I think you hear so many people talk about being two-way players, and she proved it. So when you watch that live with someone with personality, especially when they are that little kid running around, it just makes people drawn to you for sure.
Yeah, Emily, for you, what is it about McDonald, coming off of what Hodge had to say? What were your thoughts about just seeing her in the tournament, and really the notion that because these games are not televised and because there's not enough exposure for women's athletics in general, that we had to fall in love with her over the last couple of weeks when we very well could have fallen in love with her a couple months ago? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a really good thing what Hodge mentioned is she's not trying to do more than she can, and she plays both ends of the floor. So in the UConn game, she was getting hurt, but she was getting stops, and she was shutting down their best player, and she wasn't celebrating her wins big enough that she couldn't get a stop on defense. And she's also a lefty, which I'm a huge fan of lefties. That's a personal thing. But yeah, just the fact that she's an all-around solid player, and she makes her teammates better. In one of the plays last night where she drove baseline or into the lane, got stuck, maybe like double or triple team, found a shooter at the top of the key. You can't find kids that can do that, especially with her size, with those big people around her, and gets the assist there on the three in the moment where they really needed it. So that kind of stuff, the little stuff that doesn't really show up too big in the stats, that's the stuff that stands out to me for her.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing, just being ready and doing the things that don't show up on a stat sheet, but you know are extremely an integral part of winning and even staying in games. And at the end of the game, she made those last few points. And I'm sure she'll think about going 3 of 4 at the charity stripes. If she went 4 of 4, could have tied the game and gone into overtime. Amy, what are your thoughts on Miss McDonald?
She's fast. No, watching her play, you watch her play on both ends. She's impossibly quick, and I can't fathom how she can do what she does, but it's super fun to watch. I think what makes her special, though, is that grit piece, and I think these guys kind of both mentioned it, is that, like, she talked about, I believe it was after the semifinal game, Rebecca Lobo or Holly Rose, somebody asked her about, her shooting percentage and how she's drastically increased that over the last couple of years. And she said, well, I shoot hundreds of thousands of shots. I shoot 1,000 shots a day. Like, for the people in the back, someone needs to hear that. Like, that's how you get better. And she wasn't scared to take the chance to get better. And I think that, her obviously believing in Adia Barnes and their relationship was amazing to watch. And just like every coach wants that with at least one player in their career. And, kudos to them for finding it. But just this really special player. Looking forward to following her career going forward.
And Bridget, for you, so many great things said about Aerie McDonald here. What are your thoughts?
Well, obviously everybody said lots of great thoughts that I'm just going to continue to echo, but I think a lot of it, and us not being able to hop on the Aerie McDonald train so early, Pac-12 West Coast, not ideal for us West Coast people, or East Coast, excuse me. So that definitely didn't help things out, but finally being able to see her and just hearing her story of how she was able to help build that Arizona program to where they are today. I think any basketball player that's gone through 4 years of a building program can resonate with that and see all the work that she's put in to help grow that program and put them back on the map, get them back to the championship, and finally establish Arizona again as a good powerhouse in women's basketball.
We heard the name Adia Barnes, Coach Barnes on Arizona at the end of this semifinal game against UConn is excited. She is celebratory. She is saying things to her team about people not believing in them and knowing that didn't matter and we did it and we got here. Bridget, I'll stay with you for this. Should a coach be apologizing for, in the heat of the moment, not negatively swearing at anybody, toward anybody in any type of malicious way? She's like, we did it. You know what I mean? Like, I would be, as I think I think we would all be, if especially that feeling of the world saying you can't, and then they did, and even if they didn't, no matter what it is, in that huddle, that's your team. And in a world where we can't hide from anything, and basically at this point, we probably feel like there's cameras in everybody's house, like a reality show. Adia Barnes celebrated. Should she be apologizing for being happy and telling her team, we did this, and who cares what anybody thinks? Bridget, I'll start with you. I think this is a ridiculous question that any woman should have to answer, but guess what? We live in a world where things need to change. So let's talk about the fact that I don't believe Coach Barnes needs to be sorry.
No, definitely not. I mean, like she said in the post-game interview, that was supposed to be a private moment of her sharing her excitement and her passion for the game and passion for her team with her team. Yes, we're in the age of social media and cameras everywhere. So of course it was caught on camera and plastered all over the internet, but being able to just enjoy that moment, enjoy all the hard work and dedication that's been put into that program. And like I think she said in yesterday's interview, it was a trying year. It was a difficult year. She had a kid. She went through all this with her team. So for her to have to go out and allegedly apologize for what she did, no, not at all. She was being herself, and that's all she's ever been, as she said.
Amy, for you, you're a head coach. You understand that there is emotion and people are allowed to be excited and happy and unapologetic. Seeing people demand her to apologize or say, my daughter was watching that, what was your response to all that?
First of all, you had to zoom in and listen to the commentator to even know what she really said. So saying my daughter was watching that, well, maybe you shouldn't have had your daughter watch it 16 times then. But also, I think a coach in a huddle, if you want to come in my huddle, feel free anytime you want, but my huddle's between me and my team. So anything you hear, that was your own choice to come in there. I think as long as she, can talk to her players like that, her players aren't offended by that, then by all means, that is a huddle. And I think Hodge is going to agree with me on here. If you come into my huddle, then you're going to have to deal with what's in my huddle. And I talk to my team, we get passionate and we get crazy about things. And I by no means think, I tweeted about that, I by no means think she should apologize for anything or should feel she has to apologize. My dad coached for 30 something, 40 years, and he had some choice words he's never once apologized for, and I don't think that you should have to.
And I agree with you. And you bring it up, like you said, your dad, for as long as he coached. We don't hear this on the men's side. Since I was 4 or 5 years old, I've been reading Jim Boeheim's lips here in Syracuse. I know what he says. I know clearly what he's saying. So, Emily, I'll go to you next. To extend this, men are not apologizing for swearing in a huddle, ever. And I've never experienced it. I played basketball growing up, and no matter what was said there or in our locker room, like, that was what was happening. And you could say what you wanted to say and feel how you want to feel. Why does a woman have to apologize for something that a man has done for decades?
Dan, I just want to go with what you were saying. Lip reading, professional sports, men's sports. If you look at that stuff, how many different words they're saying, what they're saying, and you can't hear it, but you know what they're saying. And like Bridget mentioned, there are cameras everywhere, but that is a private moment with her team that they just accomplished something that nobody thought they could do. And she's expressing her emotions, which as women's coaches and in women's sports, we constantly get told that, oh, they're to this or to that when we express emotion. And you see it from men's sports where, oh, he's a fiery coach. Oh, no, she's a bossy coach. And just the language difference in describing how people coach or play. It's the players, too. The players expressing emotion. And that's something that I love about the sport. It's why I coach. It's for those feelings. And you don't see that with men's players. Men's players, and not saying that they can't do this, but they don't get called out for it. And that's the problem. That's what we're seeing here with a great coach talking to her team. Should not have to apologize. Shouldn't apologize. Shouldn't even be asked to. It shouldn't be looked at like that. That's what I have to say on that.
And Emily, you bring up, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about the juxtaposition of when a men's team loses and you see them cry and you hear the commentators go, wow, it's such a tough game, tough emotion. And then you see the women cry and it's like, oh, well, that they're emotional. The difference between saying, oh, these guys really felt that, and well, this is what they do. They're supposed to cry. And it's just like that. It's like that. It's so instilled in the culture that it's like it's sexist language, but people treat it like it's normal language because they're like, well, you know what I mean. And it's like, no, I don't. Like, if I lost the game, I'm going to cry. If I'm a donkey and I lost the game, I'm going to cry. I mean, that's just regular. That's regular emotion. Many basketball games, we fought to the end. There was a game where I hit 2 threes, missed the third one. And I still think about if I had taken that shot, like the first 2 shots I took, I just believed in myself. I let them fly. The third shot, I said, I have to make it. I have to make it. I have to make it. And that was my mistake. When I play basketball, I can't think. So I said I had to make it. I took it, and I was off to the left side. And it's those, you're supposed to be emotional if you care about something. But the whole, like, if a man shows his emotion, well, and there's so many different sides to this too, because if a man shows his emotion, he's weak. And so, I mean, it's just that it's the language of it, and it's watching the games and seeing a team like UCLA lose and a guy's crying, and then see, South Carolina lose and there's a woman crying. And I'm like, they're human beings. They just lost the chance to win a championship. What would you do in their spot? So your language should be, wow, they fought to the end. They gave their all. This really sucks. That language should be same throughout. Hodge, thoughts on Coach Barnes and thoughts on what we're talking about?
Oh, I think her being herself, again, Bridget alluded to it, her being herself in all of her post-game interviews and pre-game interviews. You show me that moment and I'm signing up to play for her immediately because it's real, because that's what happens. I've been on a billion teams since I've grown up. And to kind of tie in what you're talking about, Dan, is that's what sports teams do. It's what athletes do. They live with emotion.
I've seen a lot of things over the years with women's athletics. And one of the things that was brought up by Bridget when I said, what was your favorite part of the tournament? It was beautifully put, Bridget, and it was also incredibly sad. What's your favorite part? That the games were on. I mean, that's insane, because what I grew up knowing as a kid playing basketball and picking up a basketball when I was 3, everything that I knew was I got to watch every game. You know, the men's tournament would come on. My favorite part is the round of 64, because it's games from literally noon to midnight. And they're all on TV, whether it's True TV or TBS or TNT or CBS. Every game is on. And I know back in the day, like a couple games weren't on, but the men have always had more than the women. You know, if UConn was on, you could see it. But outside of UConn, maybe a Stanford or Tennessee with Pat Summitt, you're not seeing the game. And you have to literally check a box score and just follow like the screen to see like who's leading in the game. Hodge, I'll start with you here on the great point that Bridget brought up. Why are we just talking about the fact that we got to see every game for the women's tournament?
I don't know. I'm glad the whip around coverage is gone. Same thing. That's my favorite round, is that we got to see it all. And I don't know what took this long. I know it's something that, again, like in our community at the convention, this is stuff we talk about all the time, but finally there's some outside scrutiny coming in, finally, whether you go to the Stanford strength coach who first kind of blew the whistle on the setup of the weight room and the training facilities out at the tournament. And then you have Sidonia Prince using her TikTok and Twitter and her social media audience to kind of exacerbate that problem. You get more eyes on it, but I don't know what's taken this point to get it on TV and get it accessible, because the numbers show that it works. So I don't understand why they're having to keep fighting this hill. You can't draw out of an empty cup. So if you're going to give them something to work with, there's going to be a product. It's the old, if you build it, they will come. It's there. It's built. Just put it on TV, put it on a platform, put it out there. Clearly there's interest. And I don't know why it took so long.
Emily, seeing the men's tournament just get plastered everywhere forever and see little blips of the women's, you know, it was like every men's game, 2 women's games. And it almost is built in such a way that March Madness was all about the men. And, oh, yeah, maybe, you know, you should watch the championship game for the women. What can you say to that? That, I mean, it was promoted that way. It was facilitated that way. And if you have the media and television itself telling people, care about the men, care a little bit about the women. If they're speaking that verbiage, then obviously people are going to sometimes toe that, they're going to follow that like sheep. And they kind of created the notion that women's athletics isn't as exciting. And so we've waited forever to see it, which is insane. And I still feel like we're only seeing it today because they've been pushed publicly and maybe not because they felt like they needed to.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is I played women's basketball, and growing up, you couldn't watch the big games. You would watch the men's games, and my dad would point out stuff here and there, things to work on, but you would only see the semifinals maybe in the championship, just like you said. And the past, I think I was still in college, and the men's games were blowouts, and the women's games were hard-fought, tight games that were fun to watch. And I'll bring friends in, watch the game in my room or anything like that, but we shouldn't only be able to see those final games. And growing up, like as a young women's basketball player, that's the stuff you want kids to watch. You want them to watch these athletes who are giving their all in these games, whether it's the round of 64, which again, it's great from noon to midnight watching games. But when you're only watching the men's games, these young kids, these young girls are saying, well, why aren't there girls playing? Something like that. And it's not necessarily something I thought, but I saw it with other people. And coaching young kids now, like a young AAU program, they could watch it this year. And I had them and their parents texting me saying, oh, did you see this game? So-and-so said this about that team. That's the stuff you want to continue to build the game, to grow the game from these young kids. They have to see the women's games and girls and women promoting the sport. And that's how we get better as a program, as the NCAA, as women's coaches, by promoting what we have to build the next generation.
And coming off of that, an awesome point, Emily, and thank you. Amy, for you, has this been a systemic issue that was almost facilitated and created where if you don't put the games on television, you almost build the notion that nobody wants to watch them and that they're not important and that they don't matter. So it's kind of this vicious cycle of you've told America that nobody cares, so then nobody cared, and then you say, well, no, we're not putting them on TV because nobody cares. So it's almost like they created the narrative to give themselves an excuse. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it's you look at U.S. women's national team, look at women's tennis, look at, most recently with the WNBA, you now can purchase a package to watch all the games, right? I'll use the WNBA as kind of my example. There's not a team within 2 hours of me, so I can't just, have season tickets and go to games all the time. Makes it really hard for me to then be a fan of a particular team, to like build a relationship with a team if I can't watch them on TV, nor can I go to the games. And also their games are like 2:00 on a Tuesday. So this is just like a systemic issue that never allows a person that isn't truly invested in it, like coaches, like we're going to go out of our way to find games. But my neighbor, right, who likes basketball, likes sports, wants to watch, doesn't know the avenues. They're not easily accessible. It's not, an obvious route for them. And then I think the second part, like, this is probably an unpopular opinion amongst women's basketball coaches, but I don't think we do a good job with how we manage the Final Four and our locations of convention. We're in Nashville. Nobody knows that there's a women's basketball tournament going on. We're in Tampa. Nobody knows. We're in New Orleans. Nobody knows. Being in cities, putting ourselves in Denver when we were there like 9 years ago, everybody knew that's what we were there for. Columbus, everybody knew that's what we were there for. I know those are cold, smaller cities, guys. Sorry. But being in places where we can run the convention and run the national championship and be the show in town, is a huge marketing piece that we've completely and utterly ignored, basically. I started talking about this right after Denver, so 9 years ago, when I was like, wow, like the turnout was great. People wanted to be here. People at every restaurant were like, hey, are you here for the women's basketball tournament? People knew. We go out in New Orleans and nobody knows what we're there for. We're just another group in New Orleans for whatever, So I think that being strategic about those parts to get people in stands and making it accessible to the young girl in the crowd and young boys in the crowd too. And then I think getting it on TV, you, like Hodge said, like if you build it, they will come. We've proven that people will watch women's sports and will love women's sports when they have the opportunity to watch it.
Yeah, and I think that, again, something very well put is think about where your strongholds are. Think about where you can be effective from the inside out and where people have that love for the game to try and build off of that instead of just trying to force it in somewhere. Bridget, what are your thoughts? Because, you brought this up, the fact that we didn't get to watch these games and, the notion of, well, they don't have good viewership. They don't make the TV stations money, but making it cyclical, making it so hard to watch it. And then the point that was just brought up that, if a WNBA game is on a Tuesday at 2 p.m., most people are working. So you can't turn the game on. So if you take women's athletics, if you take women's basketball or whatever it may be, and you put it in a place where it's a bad time, it's a bad day, it's hard to get it on your channel, you got to buy this extra package. If you set up a bunch of barriers for something to fail and then it fails, it's almost like you get that, well, see, we told you so. And it's like, no, you didn't set any of those barriers for the NFL or the NBA. You set them for the WNBA. So what are your thoughts?
Definitely. And I'm wrapping up my master's right now. So a lot of this is what we're talking about, one of my classes. Obviously, the NCAA men's tournament is a huge revenue driver for the NCAA across the whole spectrum. It facilitates so much of what they do. But so much is also given to them and so much is invested into it. And you saw it this year and through the pandemic, like the WNBA rose to the occasion. They were on TV. People were sitting at home, working from home, and were able to watch these games and enjoy it. And my social media feeds have been all hyping up women's basketball across the board because it's been accessible. People have been able to sit down and watch it, and they've been put on times that people aren't just, oh, I have like an hour here to watch during my lunch break. They're able to sit down after dinner, enjoy, and invest into the game. And a lot of the naysayers were saying, oh, well, the UConn powerhouses of the world and the top programs are dominating the game, so why would we tune in to watch a bunch of blowouts? we're seeing that change drastically, especially this year. All the upsets, all the close calls down to the wire. That's because people are investing in truly engaging in women's basketball right now. And to point out that people don't want to watch the game, you're just ignorant at that point. All the data's coming out right now to show that these games right now this year, the 2021 NCAA Women's Championships, are seeing record number of viewers. Well, that's because you put them on national broadcast channels for people to actually be able to watch them. Before it was ESPN3 and ESPNU. Like, you have to have specific packages, like we've said before, to go out and find our way to find it. So this year's been astronomical for the women's game, and I'm just so excited to finally be invested in it full sense, and be able to see how much it's going to grow just in a year from now.
What is, Bridget, I'll stay with you. What is the most glaring issue with women's athletics right now?
The most.
You know what, the sad part is there could be 10 things that come out of your mouth, and that is totally okay, because we need to discuss it. That's why we're here today. I am not here to keep my mouth shut. I think if you want to make changes, you got to talk about change, and then you got to do something about it. So what do you think?
Definitely. I'm going to stick with the media just because that's kind of where I am, and just the language that we're seeing across the social medias. I think I saw one of my professors, colleagues, tweeted something about SportsCenter, ESPN tweeted a graphic saying Baylor has made it to the Final Four for the first time since 1970. No, that's not true. Baylor men. So I think the language and the clarity, and across all media, social media, broadcast media, print media, that's, I think, one of the most glaring, because we've seen this year, you expose people to women's basketball and to the game and women's athletics in general. People will watch it. It's exciting. It's a different aspect to the game. You see the women thinking a lot more. There's just so many different aspects to that game that isn't seen until it's exposed. So I think probably the media and the language.
Fair enough. And makes a lot of sense and is very true. And I think there's a lot to dive into just from saying the media and the language. Amy, what about you? What is the most glaring issue and or issues in women's athletics right now?
Oh, well, I mean, it's not, there's nothing about it that's equitable at this point, right? And it's clear as day. I mean, the NCAA tournament really put that on blast, having two bubble setups rather, and seeing the haves and have-nots and how that worked out. But I think there are some interesting solutions to it that we haven't even talked about. So not promoting, gambling, because we don't do that as college coaches. But the average sports watcher enjoys gambling on sports. That is the reality. That's how the NFL is, why the NFL has all the fantasy leagues, and NBA has fantasy leagues and things like that. So the availability, I didn't know that maybe it was available before, but I didn't know. Some of my friends, college teammates and their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, they all gambled on the women's tournament this year, the last few rounds, and it created excitement. They then were invested. I think in sport, we have to remember, it's not about male and female. We like competition. Americans especially like the underdog, but we like competition. It's something that we enjoy. It doesn't matter if I'm watching, a bunny race. I'm going to be cheering for somebody in this race. I'm going, it's the camp thing where you're in the beanbag sack trying to jump somewhere and everyone's getting crazy on the sidelines. We enjoy that. That's what we have to sell. I would argue that it is intentionally not being sold right now. And I think that is our biggest challenge. And the problem is it's not being sold by the people in charge.
And from what you said, it brings up to me when you talk about people that are betting as fans, that when you see the commercials, and this also goes into what you just said, Bridget, when you see the fill out your bracket commercial, it says fill out your bracket, but it's the men's bracket. Mm-hmm. So there's two brackets, there's two tournaments going on, but all of the powers that be or whatever, they're saying, hey, if you're going to fill out your bracket, do it here. But there's no conversation about betting on the women's game, the women's bracket, who do you think is going to win the women's tournament? It's always about the men. And so in that case, you're again telling people generationally that when we say fill out the bracket challenge, we're telling you to fill out the men's bracket challenge, that the women's one doesn't really matter. Who cares? And if you keep speaking that language, then that's where you cause the issue, because it's just like you said, Bridget, it wasn't that Baylor hasn't made it since 1971. It was that the Baylor men's team hasn't made it. So if you speak in this way where you tell everybody that this, this college hasn't done this, or this is the bracket, or this whatever, if you speak in that sense and you tell everybody, well, we're only talking about the men, this is what it is. If you say that that's the baseline and you forget the women in the promotion, which obviously women, Arizona talked right about that. When you forget somebody in a promotion, then you're creating the habit that when I'm filling out my bracket, I'm not filling out a men's and a women's bracket. I'm filling out the bracket, which is only the men's bracket according to everybody that's promoting it. Emily, your take on this. What is the biggest issue in your opinion of women's athletics right now?
I think, like you started off, it could be 10 different things. But the qualifying term of women's, where you don't need a qualifying term of men's across sports in general, especially with the tournament, especially with the brackets. If you go to fill out a bracket, it's like, oh, also, did you know at this last tab, if you keep clicking, you could maybe get to the women's bracket to fill it out? Because I've done it. I've looked at it. Pick a winner here, like, see what you think. And not having that. And in a personal friend group chat, my friends who played women's college basketball, oh, did you fill out your bracket? Yeah. Okay. Well, did you fill out your women's bracket? The qualifying term there is women's, and it should be women's and men's. And it should be women's tennis, men's basketball, men's basketball, swimming, men's swimming. Why isn't it that way? Why do we need the qualifier for women's? It's just having the men's as the automatic. That's what we assume. And Bridget made the comment of Baylor. I was like, my first thought was, that's wrong. Because I think, like, they just won. I was at that game. Because that's how we think, and we have changed that within ourselves and our immediate groups, but it needs to be an overarching change where you say men's and women's, or you say basketball. Oh, which team? Okay, so we ask. We don't assume that it's the men's team. So yeah, my initial thought was Britta's comment. That's wrong. They just won. That's that. So that's the title, the qualifier.
I think every point, media and the language, as well as the qualifying term, as well as saying that Amy was talking about with the bracket. Oh, I didn't even know I could bet on this, or I didn't know I could do that, and being able to see it on television and having it in front of you. And Emily said having to click through everything to maybe somehow, some way, 15 clicks in, get to the women's bracket. Hodge, all of these make sense, and they all are an every year issue. So what can you add to it, or what do you want to say about it from your point of view?
Yeah, no, I think you guys all had points, because I was going to bring up the gambling part of it, the availability to have fantasy teams for the WNBA, having the ability to find brackets and fan duels and all that kind of stuff, drafting, whatever it is, to find ways to incorporate it into the daily, everyday person's life, like you mentioned, is a big deal. I think the overarching one, though, like Emily said, is just stop thinking as women's sports as secondary. We're like, oh, that's nice, this is real, but like the women's game, you guys can do this. Or it's kind of, unless it's sexualized or unless it's for someone else's entertainment, it can't just be what it is. Because everybody who ever talks or trashes women's basketball, it's always, oh, well, they can't dunk. Or you hear Shaq talking about dropping the rim or doing whatever. If anybody who actually watches basketball, women's basketball is the most pure version of the game, and I'll fight anybody on it, because there isn't any high flying. Like, yeah, sure, there's a bunch of people who can dunk, but talk to all the NBA guys who are getting coached by your Becky Hammonds or your Swing Cashes who are involved in everybody like that. It's the angles, it's the IQ, it's the execution of everything. And I think people try to compare the men's game and the women's game, and they're different. And it's, what are you watching it for? You know what I mean? Whether it's basketball or soccer, there's more tactical, there's more athleticism. It's okay. You don't have to like women's basketball, but you don't have to go out and trash it immediately because they can't do something that they assume, like Emily said, that men's is the baseline, men's is the primary. Yeah. Well, you're talking to like three four, if you count me, obviously, like four previous athletes. And when we think our baseline is, okay, I think back to my athletic experience. So I don't think of it as men's or women's. It's like, no, my automatic is women's. So other people have to understand, like Emily was saying and making that point, is it gets to be what it is. And you can't just deem one primary and one secondary. They're their own thing and they have to be treated as such. And okay, yeah, maybe that worked for the men's tournament, but or men's sports or men's professional teams. There's different ways to do it and there's different ways to market. And if you have Draymond going on rants that women have gone on for a long time, it's the put your money where your mouth is and find the ways that the women's game is unique and let it be what it is. Stop trying to make it all these other things.
Yeah, and I think that's, you said something when you said, if it's not sexualized. As a man, I've had people tell me, well, I don't watch the women's game because I'm not attracted to them.
Right.
And I don't even know how to respond to that because I don't watch the men's game for that either. You know what I mean? Like not watching sports to be attracted to anybody. I'm watching sports to see somebody, evolve, grow, overcome, the underdog story that we talked about here. Like I don't watch a game to be attracted to anything. And it's just, I mean, do you say that when somebody has a beautiful voice? Wow, they can sing like an angel, but I'm not attracted to her or him. Like it just, I don't get, like, talent is talent and that's not what you're there for. And I think, again, we're talking about kind of overarching the language. Why do we have to call it women's athletics? Why are we speaking about women this way? Why do we say that besides being good basketball players, they have to be girls that we want to bring to a dance? Like, what does this have to do with anything? And I think that, but it's put in our society and people are habitual. And if you say, I say it takes 3 weeks to create a habit, good or bad. And for years and decades, we've created this habit in our society that women have to climb up this giant hill just to prove to, if they dunk, I might watch it. Or if she's cute, I might watch it. Or, if, I don't know, if she swears, I mean, whatever it may be, but you're not asking that for men. You're not asking them to do anything. If a guy is on a breakaway and he lays it in and they win the game, nobody's saying he should have dunked it. So it just, I guess to me, what pains me and breaks my heart is, as a man, I cannot tell you the times that someone has said to me, oh, I watch basketball. I love basketball. Well, not women's basketball. And I don't get how you can love a sport halfway. So
Preach.
To see the positive of it, Hodge, why do you love your job? Why are you in this? Why are you in the world of sports? What are you hoping to accomplish?
I think it's anybody who's played. I forget who said it earlier about the feeling you get when you play, of the battling through something and then you accomplish it, or you create a common bond with teammates, coaches, personnel around it. I think for me, it boils down to relationships, just period, because you want to feel those things, whether it is a relationship with yourself, realizing you can overcome adversity. I always wanted to be around sports because of what it taught me about myself and people around me. I think there's no faster way to find out what somebody's made of than putting them on a field in a crunch time and figure out who's on board or who isn't, or when things are going well, who's equally as invested, who wants to do what, how are they going to be in this situation? So it's always kind of been like the litmus test for me of who am I around and who am I? Am I who I say I am? It depends. And now, especially being a coach, it's the little kids. It's you're playing at camp and trying to find, our junior best player was the little kid at camp. And the fact that I get to coach her now, and she's so just as competitive as she was when she was in 5th grade, and she was going and just terrorizing other tiny humans. And watch that growth is an extreme example, but you get that all of the time in our profession. So to get these natural, organic ways to see people rise and fall and figure out who they are, that's it. Why would I want to sit behind a desk and crunch numbers? No thanks. Give me people, give me chaos. At an all tournament, I want chaos and violence, and we got it in the tournament, and that's what my job is in a far less it's chaotic, and I love that. I thrive in that.
And I love that controlled chaos, we always call it. So Emily, for you, why be in the sports world? Why are you so passionate about it?
Well, I say it pretty often is I have 2 degrees I don't use because I fell in love with coaching. And I have 2 reasons. Personally, it was very hard for me when my career ended, and coaching gives me those emotions. Coaching gives me the highs and the lows, which the lows are low and the highs are high, and you ride that roller coaster, and that's what it is. With this year, more than any before, it's that roller coaster, and you go to work every day hoping for the wins, and you come home at night and you try and figure out how you could have gotten lost better. You know, those things. And then the second reason is, like how I said, the people, like these people right here, and the people I interact with every day, my head coach, my players. I genuinely love what I do because I get to see a freshman grow to a senior. I get to have that relationship after they graduate, and they keep me updated on what they're doing in the fleet. And I mean, with Coast Guard or careers for you civilian folks, but what they're doing, and they're doing amazing things. That's part of the reason I love Division III is they're people and students and athletes. They are doing it all, and I get to see this one little section of their life and help them through life using basketball, because that's what was done for me through my coaches, my teammates. I couldn't ask for a better career, and I'm very proud to be a women's basketball coach.
I am. You know what? I'll tell you, if I didn't love basketball today, like you're making me want to be a coach right now, I'm going to apply to all the teams. But be like, Hodge, I'm coming down. So, but, and now I want to join the Coast Guard, Emily. Thank you for that. But, but Amy, what can you tell me about why you love the world of sports and what keeps you in it? What keeps you involved? What keeps you passionate?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the world of sports, I think we all probably go back to the same thing. We all love to compete. You know, we're overly competitive people. I joke that like my assistant and I will race up the stairs still, you know, and she played 5 years ago. And so we're super competitive. But I think in terms of coaching and why I love it, and I think what I continue to get out of it is sort of what we're talking about here. It's we live in a world where we need more women who are confident in themselves and are strong and are going to fight for what they believe in. And I think we have a very unique opportunity to teach that. I think we get to put people in very adverse situations and help them work together and work individually and get through those moments. And it's, you know, the same thing as when you're up for a job and it's the 3rd time you've been passed over for promotion for some guy that's less than you. And you know, are you going to go in and say something because, you know, we taught you to fight for what you want, or are you just going to be like, well, this is just how it is? And so I think that we uniquely get to build that character. And I love that. I think it's amazing. Like I've had an opportunity to coach some incredible young women that are doing amazing things with their lives. And I love seeing that. Just job growth, personal growth, you know, those types of things. I think, you know, as coaches, you know, we get our highs and lows from the games, but I think that long term is what keeps you in it.
Yeah, you know, and Amy, I want to stay with you here for a second. This might be crazy for people to hear that aren't involved in the world of sports, but that, you know, you talk about, and Emily talked about too, you got those highs and then you got those lows. But from being like, from my point of view, playing growing up, and then being a broadcaster and just being around it and building relationships with the people that are on the floor and on the field all the time. I know the lows hurt, but in a weird way, does it not like make you more passionate? Because when you feel that low, it kind of like, because it hits you in the gut, it's like, well, you know, you still love it. Because I tell people all the time, like there's a stark difference that you will find out really quick when you go to do something in your life, professionally or personally, of if you love it or if you think you love it. And when you lose, you know you love it because you're probably sitting there like in like 2 minutes after you lose, maybe a second after you lose, going, what are we going to do different next year? Like, is the low in some weird way almost like a high, I guess?
It's addicting. So yes, I would say, yeah, it's addicting. I think that you learn more from the lows. I would say, like, I remember more details of big losses in my playing and coaching career than I do of really big wins. And I think that you learn so much from those moments. I think you realize, hey, you know, we could have done this, or, you know, sometimes you lose and you just weren't the better team, but you know, you gave it your all. The ones that hurt you is you're like, I don't feel like I didn't prepare us well enough, or we didn't give it our all. Like those are the ones that like break your heart. The other ones are moments that you grow from. And I think that, I think the loss is a little bit of addicting. Like, how do we get better? What's the next thing? How do we grow? And so I think coaching in general, like I've been saying this for the longest time. My dad coached my whole life, so I've been around it my whole life. You have to be like a little bit crazy to want to coach college athletics, like just like a screw or two loose in there, because it is this like constant roller coaster. But in the off season it's great, but at the same time, like by the time October rolls around, we're already like, let's go, come on, we're ready to start, come on. So we get right back to it. I think that it's definitely, the lows are not really truly low. I think when you stop caring about losing, you probably should hang it up. But I think that learning from those moments is awesome.
Yeah, and that's incredible. I got another thought in my brain. And Bridget, I want to hear what you have to say about this before we head into rapid fire. Why be a part of it? Why be connected to it? And I think Hodge said it. That she's happy that you're on the staff because you're one of the up and coming stars of this sports world. So what can you tell me about why you're in it?
Well, definitely it starts from some of my earliest memories. I grew up in a sports household, and my memories are sitting on the couch watching Notre Dame football games with my dad. So just growing up in that environment and wanting to continue that, like sports is addicting, like everybody said, like you have to want to be there, and you love the highs and the lows and all of the emotions and thrills of being in athletics. To playing in college and playing throughout my whole life, like sports is where it's at, people. Like if you're not on the train, hop on. And I think I hopped into the sports info side of things, like growing up and seeing people write about our game and covering our sports, a whole lot of men, and that's messed up. I went to the high school championships tournament for the girls basketball a couple weeks ago, and the whole table of sports writers and media and officials in the PIAA, all men covering a women's championship game. That's just, I think that's what drives me every single day to come in and just deliver the story from a woman's perspective. Like we have a bunch of boss ass women's basketball coaches sitting here, like
I'm not going to ask you
coaching women
for that. I think it's fine.
Perfect. Bring it on. Good. We have a bunch of boss ass women coaching women. That's how it should be. So how can just get me fired up? Go ahead. And I think being in sports, it shows off that being able to dive in, and especially in the Division III, as we all know, you get to see those kiddos grow up. And me covering a bunch of different sports, not just women's basketball, you have all those extra kiddos to love up on and watch them grow into actual people. They come in scared little freshmen, and now they're like adults thriving the world. Some of them are coaching, some of them are freaking nurses and PAs. Like there's so much more than just the sport. And I think that's my favorite part, is seeing people translate what they learn and all the life lessons they learn on the court, on the field, into life is probably my favorite part.
And it's amazing. And I will echo you on my show very plainly. There are a lot of boss ass women out there. So before we get to rapid fire, going through this year was not just the normal uphill battle of athletics for women, but for everyone, being in a pandemic and being taken away from things that we love. I can honestly tell you that the thing that kind of hit home the most for me, kind of hit my gut, was I do a lot with high school kids, and I do shows once a month, and I go to like the neighborhood of where the high school is and to a restaurant in that neighborhood, and the kids go out there every month. And so once a month we're, West Genesee here, Liverpool here, CNS there. And I never thought in 2 million years that I would not be able to do a live event in a restaurant with the kids. That like I would have to like be told, well, they're not playing sports, and even if they are, you can't speak to them, and they're not allowed to go anywhere, and we're not allowed to open the restaurant. And so that was the strangest thing to me. Bridget, for you, what did you learn about yourself during this pandemic? How have you grown?
Wow. It's a loaded question. Like you said, like not being able to be out there doing what you love and being able to like talk to high school kids or go physically see a game in person. I think I learned a lot of how much how passionate I am and how driven I am to just continue to grow in my field, grow as a person. And obviously I had a lot of time to sit and think about where I want to go in the future. And I think being able to continue to fight for what I want and pursue all these passions that I have is, loss of words. I think the pandemic's allowed me to realize, like, pinpoint where I want to go and how I want to get there. So I think just really career driven right now at the age of 24. So very career focused.
Where are you going, Bridget? Where's the clarity? Where are you going? Where are you heading?
As for right now, I really love the Division III aspect of things, and there were opportunities to maybe settle down, stay home, and like coach high school basketball. But I think right now the Division III, I'm a D3 baby through and through. Play Division III, worked in Division III. I want to stay in Division III, and I think pursuing a career in the sports info world for right now in Division III is where it's at.
Hodge, I think you need to rework the contract for Bridget after this. Make sure she stays. So
I'm trying very hard.
So, Amy, for you, what did you learn about yourself during this pandemic?
What did I learn about myself? I think, well, not just the pandemic. I think that we had a interesting, to say the least, last 13 or 14 months. I think, for one, I learned who my road dogs were. A couple of them are on here. You learn who you can count on and who, you really, you fit with, but also you really value when they challenge maybe an opinion you have. I think also I learned where I was willing to stick my neck out on some things. I think that we've been, sometimes I'm passive with not necessarily my program, but other parts of our campus community or in the area. And I figured out that I don't want to be that anymore. Talking to a lot of coaches at other schools and maybe higher levels who have been in it longer, and kind of where what you fight for. And so I think we did a lot this year, and spending a lot of time not just talking about basketball, but talking about life and X's and O's is less important than the social justice world that we're not living in. And so really having those conversations and pushing those boundaries is important to me. And I think taking that next step as a coach, I think it's been very X's and O's in basketball and like relational, but not relational about heavy stuff. And we made it heavy, and I think that was awesome.
Do you think we're getting anywhere?
I don't know. I asked my dad, this was probably in like August, I said, because he's got a bunch of history degrees and things, and he's read all the books. I said, when we're out of the pandemic, do you think people will stop caring? During the pandemic, people are home, they've got more time to watch the 24-hour news cycle, things like that. And his point was, some will, others won't. There may be less action, like immediate action that's on the news, but I think that we've started to change some of the mindsets and the way someone approaches it. So I think things will get better, but I think getting better it has to be a battle. Like, it's something we can't stop talking about. We need to be talking about, 2 Black women coaching in the Final Four. And we need to be talking about, the George Floyd, trial that's going on now, right? Like, we need to be talking about those things. It's really easy to get distracted. And I will call out D3 in a less positive way on this one. They are so high academically motivated that sometimes they forget about the rest of the world. And I think constantly having those conversations with your players is really important, because I know that if we're not having the conversations with them, not a lot of people are.
And then, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And there's a lot to, like you said, there's a lot that we have been forced to look at being at home that didn't start happening this year. It's been happening for a long time. It's just now it's in front of us. And so now the question is, what are we going to do with it now that we can't hide from it, so to speak? Emily, for you, what did you learn about yourself during this time?
I learned that I don't like working from home anymore.
That was such a.
I love my roommate though; she's great.
I just like how you looked around, like almost like blink twice if you feel safe. It was like.
She's laughing, so it's fine. She doesn't hate me. I learned that trolley racing and cornhole is really interesting when there's nothing else on TV, and I still love sports. But I learned that it's the people. It's the people that, as much as I tell people I'm not a people person, these people know I am. It's the people that keep you going. It's the people that make you want to stick your neck out. It's those people that make you want to step up because you can and they may not be able to. It's the people that make you want to go to work every day. It's the people that make you want to jump on a call and talk about why, your why, my why I am here doing what I do in my personal life, in my work life, when they're very intertwined because I'm a coach. But just the why, and spending so much time away from people, walking at the park because gyms are closed, and finding that gratitude. That was a huge word for myself and our team this year, is being grateful. Grateful that I have the opportunity to go to a park and walk and enjoy the weather, and grateful that I do have my job and I am able to continue to help these kids. Well, they're adults, but they're all really kids. And
so are you.
I'm grown. But continuing to just a lot of what Bridget and Amy said, I'm sure Hodge is going to say something great too, but trying to put it into words is I know why I do what I do, but putting it into words is hard. And I think coaching and living and being in this pandemic and seeing so much on social media and the news and talking, really going into why we do what we do and being grateful that we can do what we do. That was not really specific at all. I'm not good at words, but that's what I feel I've learned about myself and just life in these past 14, so many months.
I think you put it into words perfectly. You said you figured out your why. You know your why. You know why you're here. You know why people search their whole lives for their why. And
I don't have it all figured out. Don't get me over here. No, I just know my why of this day and time. So let's stop that.
Oh, we know if I'm giving you a compliment, you gotta accept it.
I'm not good at that.
I'm handing it off to you. You got to carry it over the threshold, bring it into the end zone.
All right, it's in my screen now. Okay, sorry.
All right, Hodge, what did you learn about yourself in this? You know, we learned stuff about each other before the pandemic. We realized that you and I are the smartest people when it comes to cereal and cereal combinations.
All the time. And time of day to eat said cereal.
And time of day. Robin Williams said if you eat after 4 p.m., you're a drug addict. And neither Hodge nor I am, but we eat Lucky Charms at all times of the day.
That's fine. In the PM.
Cheerios with the Rice Krispies and putting it all together. And we've had some really good conversations about cereal. So besides understanding that our cereal game is on point and we could change the world slowly but surely that way, what did you learn about yourself these past 14? Emily, you're right. I'm not saying 14. 14 is too many.
I went all the way back to the Kobe tragedy.
Yeah, down to January 26th.
That's when it started.
It was like everybody, and it was like every time someone passed away in the past 14 months, it was like some incredible, iconic person. So, all right, Hodge, I don't want to, 14 is making me really sick to my stomach, but what have you learned about yourself?
It's similar to what these guys are saying. It's trying to figure out, all right, who actually are you at your core? You know what I mean? I think on the positive side for me, it wasn't always a positive, but I realized how to have a better relationship with my job, because I think so many times as a coach, your job is giving to other people and giving to so many different tasks and not actually taking a chance to realize you're a human who also has to take care of themselves. And when you get stuck in this pandemic plus some, and you like, I forget who said it, we all like live alone and you're just hanging out and you are stuck by yourself. And the thing that I would always pour myself into is, all right, my team. All right, well, you don't have that. Like you have that, but you don't have that. You don't get to escape and go do the fun distractions of practice, or you don't have a specific plan. Like coaches, we are plan oriented. We have plans about our plans, and then we make plans when we're going to make our plans about the plans we're going to plan. So when you don't have that that there to know when it's coming back. You have to, again, figure out people, figure out core, and take care of who you can and have those important conversations. And then you are forced to do it with yourself. I know, Dan, you and I also talked about like finding ways to do that. And it's the getting outside. I realize how much I need to get outside. I know how much I need to just take care of myself. Like that's why the whole snowboarding thing happened. It's I have to get outside. I don't have a season. I need to feel competitive in something because you have to. So I think for me, I learned how to have a better relationship of where to allocate my energy into my job. Like what is as important and what isn't. So I always knew that the players were important. I always knew having those types of serious conversations are important and showing up for the people in your personal lives, but you let those things kind of get away. I know it's the whole pandemic's been terrible for a lot of people, but from on my side of things, like I was able to reconnect with the people that matter and the people that refill me. And I was able to get outside and do all of that. So I think I learned how to have a better relationship with my job so I can be far more effective in my job, where I know now what doesn't matter. Like we got all that stuff stripped away and none of it matters. And so, and it was different because like these guys, they had games and they had stuff that they got to kind of crack their head against the wall to figure out how to logistically make some things happen. And our team, it stinks, and our players had so much taken away from their college experience, and basketball is a huge chunk of it. But our team didn't stop for a second, I think, because we all were able to. And I think they kind of reflect me. If I would have been stressed about it, then they're going to be more stressed about it. So the fact that I was able to learn how to manage it, I was able to help them manage it and find out what's important.
Yeah, and I think, and you're right, we did talk about that. And, that was something this week was important to me to get out on the court today. And
you're at your streak still?
So my walking has continued. I had this very awesome thing happen. And by awesome, I'm being very sarcastic. My heart was doing a weird jump. So I went to the doctor and he's like, yeah, your EKG looks off. And I was like, okay. Didn't really explain it to me. He's like, I'm going to send you to the hospital. And I'm going to send you in an ambulance because I want them to take it seriously. But he's not telling me why. So I go in, they run all these tests. Long story short, all the blood work, like 30 EKGs, catheter, looking at everything. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with my heart, nothing physical. But I go back in for my follow-up, and the doc goes, I'm going to print it out and show it to you. He goes, you see where it goes up like that? I was like, yeah. He goes, it's not supposed to go that high. He said, you see where it goes down? It's not supposed to dip that low. And I'm like, what does this mean? He goes, well, you look like you had a heart attack. That's why I was nervous. And I didn't. But if I've learned anything about my life, and I'm very honest on my show, and Hodge, you know this well, I've let other people rent loft apartments in the house that is my brain. And I no longer allow them to be for rent. I bought the house, I own the house, and I'm the only one sitting on the couch now. And I think that it's a constant working thing, but healthy mind, healthy body, I dedicated the last year to it. I'm in the best shape of my life because I made the decision to be. So I am competitive, and I went out on the court, and the corner three is my favorite shot. And it's the hardest one to make because there's really nothing to go off of. And so I just kept shooting it until I made it. And when I finally made it, I ended up making 5 shots in a row, and then I knew well enough to leave the court. So, but it's that's what life is. It's pushing through. And every time I missed the shot, it made me want to make it the next time. And I knew that I was and I was looking at the positives. I'm running. I'm getting steps in. I'm getting my cardio in. I'm outside. I'm healthy. My legs work. I didn't have a heart attack. My brain's clear. So I think it's an everyday thing. But what I've learned most about myself is I have a strong faith. And it's that, if people are saying things destructively, negatively, and if they're spitting out hate speech, then I know that doesn't come from God. And if it doesn't come from God, then I don't need to listen to it. So it's a battle every day, but it makes me feel good that healthy mind, healthy body is a real thing. And if you want something in your life, you can get it. So with that being said, it's time for rapid fire. And we're going to go around the horn here. I get to ask each of you 2, but on my show, which no other broadcaster I know in the history of mankind has done this, you get to ask me questions. So I put myself on the hot seat knowingly and unapologetically, very happily. So to the coaches out there and the SID, you never get to ask questions, ever. You always get asked the question. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to flip the script. I will ask you, and then you'll ask me. We'll have two apiece. So I will start things off with Amy. I will defer to you. You can ask me something, and then I'll have a question for you.
Oh, I can ask you something. What's your favorite pizza?
Oh, man.
Good question.
That is a great question because I'm a Ninja Turtle at heart. I probably would default to say, like, I love pepperoni, but I love, like, a white pizza with the rigot and, like, with no sauce, the rigot, put the cheese on top, and then put something on top of that. So I'd probably have to say white pizza or traditional pepperoni. But if I'm going to a new place, because part of my blood is Italian, if I'm going anywhere new, I'm getting a cheese slice because that is my litmus test. If you can impress me with that, I'll go deeper into it. But if you mess up the cheese, I'm never coming back again.
Fair enough. I like that.
So, and that brings me to Old Forge Pizza. Cheddar cheese is not real pizza. We all know that.
I'm out. I'm just kidding.
I don't know anything
I'm
about
out.
that.
Will you get a pizza, Bridget? No.
No, it's fine. I don't even really like Gold Forge pizza. I like Scranton pizza.
Okay, fair enough. But if you put cheddar cheese and ragu, it's not pizza. So,
No.
Amy, my first question for you is, let's keep it with food. Well, let me ask you this. Do you like to cook? Is that something you enjoy?
I love to cook.
Okay. Favorite meal that you can make every day?
Ooh, every day? Okay, can I go 2 seasons?
Yeah.
I have a summer meal. So I started making a pineapple barbecue chicken over the summer, like a kebab on the grill with sweet potato fries on the grill and Brussels sprouts. That's by far, like, I probably had that twice a week all summer. Quarantine was great for trying new things. And my favorite, like, comfort food winter meal that I actually don't make that often, it's like for when I'm having a bad day, is my mom's tuna casserole. And it's 6 ingredients. It's super easy, but it's so good. But I do cook more interesting things than that too.
All right. No, I like those. Those are awesome. The summer one, anything on a grill, like literally anything on a grill is the way to go. Miss Emily, I will defer to you for the first one you have for me.
I would like to know, what was your quarantine show of choice?
Oh, this is easy. And Hodge, did I tell you this? I don't know if I did or not. So
I know we talked about it.
So I have never seen Game of Thrones. And so here's the cool thing about it. When it all started, I had 8 seasons. When everybody had like nothing to watch and nothing to do, I somehow, and I do an entertainment show called Super Powered Pop, and we go out to Comic-Cons and we interview actors and actresses. Somehow within the last decade, I've stayed away from, I didn't know anything. I knew winter is coming. I knew Jon Snow's name, but I didn't know anything about anything. And I don't know how I did it, especially at like New York Comic-Con, but I did. So I got to watch the show as if, like, I watched the show as like an innocent child that was just born. And I saw it all the way through, and I feel the same way that most people feel. Everything was amazing until the last 2 episodes. 15 minutes ruined an entire series, which is so true. And my man Bran Muffin, there's a lot of problems I have with Bran, and but and I had a kill list. I'm a very peaceful man, but I had this is who has to get murdered, and this is the team that has to make it to the end.
We ran a death pool with my friend group.
Yeah, everybody had that list.
Okay, that's good. And at the top of my list was Joffrey and Ramsay. So
more than Cersei.
Cersei was 3rd. She was 1, and then Joffrey is like a high. I played back for him and Ramsay, I played back their murder scenes multiple times.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's so satisfying.
Yeah, like I ate a chicken and biscuits while I watched Ramsay get eaten up. It was very nice. So my show of choice was Game of Thrones. Emily, I would have to say it brought me through a couple, like 2-3 months, because I staggered it. Let me see. For you, Emily, okay, I'm going to keep with your theme. what is the movie during quarantine that you could just keep watching?
Well, I don't know if I really had a choice, but between Grown Ups and Pitch Perfect 3, they were constantly rotated on the channels. So we watched those a lot. But we like to watch like a movie every Friday night, see what's hot on Netflix. So we'll pick that. But definitely a lot of Grown Ups 2, and Pitch Perfect 3.
I think it's funny that it was Pitch Perfect 3.
I know. Not even, well, at first, at the very beginning, we were trying to find it, and we couldn't find it anywhere. And then it was played repeatedly for the next 8 months.
Yeah, FX is notorious for getting obsessed with a movie and just playing it repeatedly, which Grown Ups, that's a Netflix choice. All right, or not Netflix, pardon me, FX. Bridget, what is your first one for me?
If you could like have one skill in life and be elite at it, what would it be?
Well, I would tell you that I don't live with regrets and I live in the moment. So I would tell you that the skill that I would take is the one I have. So I truly believe, whether it's working on my music, screenwriting, comedy, or shows, I believe that I have the ability to speak to anyone, anywhere, and make them feel safe, respected, and appreciated, because they are safe and respected and appreciated. I think my honesty precedes me. I think people can see through me to my soul, and they kind of know what I'm about to my core. So I would tell you that the gift that God gave me is the ability to talk to anybody about anything at any time and let them know that someone is hearing them, even if they feel like they're screaming in a giant black hole, that somebody can hear them and somebody wants to tell their story. So I'm a storyteller, and that's the talent that I'll take in whatever walk of life I'm in.
It's a pretty good one. Not everybody has that, so I'd roll with it. I'd roll with it.
My first one for you, Bridget, is that because you are so driven, and because I get like an energy vibration from you that you're going very far. Will you be running Division 3 at one point?
Oh, running Division 3. I don't know if I can handle that much pressure in my life. Definitely, I'd like to run maybe a conference of Division 3. Go MAC conference. Let's go. Call me. Next time Ken Andrews comes rolling around. Just kidding. But definitely not all of Division 3. I think that's just too much craziness for one person.
I think Hodge disagrees with you. I think she thinks you can do it. That was her response on the screen here. But thank you for the answer. Just let me have the exclusive when you get the job. That's all.
Yes, of course, 1,000%. I'm writing it down right now.
Okay. Hodge, what's your first one for me?
You said Ninja Turtles before. Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle and why?
He's the fun-loving, nunchucking, incredible pizza-eating comedian Michelangelo. And there's nothing better. Even with the new movies that were not that great, I just remember when they're in that. My favorite, and this kind of says a lot about the two movies, the new ones. My favorite part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when they brought them back, was the elevator scene in the first one, where they just start like playing on stuff, and all you hear is him go, MC Mikey. And that's it. Like, it's just that little hit. And I also like that he used to get in trouble with Splinter all the time. And the nunchuck story is cool. My godmother, and to my Aunt Elaine, it's over the 5 years of the statute of limitations is well over. But she had candles that she would hang, and they were connected by a string. So they were like mini nunchucks. So when I played Michelangelo, I would play with those, and I don't know how many of them I broke, but she always restored them for me. So that was nice of her. My one for you, Hodge, is if you could be any cartoon character ever, who would you choose and why?
Ever? Sweet. That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for it. I'm going to go, let's stay with the Ninja Turtles theme, man. I would be probably, maybe Donatello. You can be super smart problem solver. Let's go that route.
You're going to go with who?
Donatello. That would be my guess. He gets to beat stuff with a stick. He's a smart one. It's a good time.
Fair enough. I'm going to go around here in a different order now to finish up. Emily, I'll go back to you here. What's your last one for me?
Ooh, let's go. Superpower can't be flight or speed. What would you choose?
Tough mine.
The thing that's tough is that I love like the angel wing things, and I love the flight side. And my favorite DC character is the Flash. So it's also my favorite show on television. It's the show on TV, like actual TV, that nobody can bother me at that time. Like I will actually physically watch. I used to host trivia on Tuesday nights, and I stopped hosting on Tuesday nights because the Flash is on at 8 o'clock. So I would say if I can't have speed or flight, I would have teleportation. I would have said in the past, but I actually created a character at Marywood for a show that I like, a fake show that I made that I really would want to do in real life. And it was a show where the premise is the character had the power to heal, but he could heal anything. This character. So I envision myself as this character kind of going around and he thinks he dies. He's in a car accident. He gets hit by a car and he wakes up in his bed and he has no idea how he got there. And his backstory is kind of told over time, but he has the power to put his hand on anybody and take any of their pain. It could be depression. It could be cancer. It could be a broken leg. It could be whatever. It could be heartache. But when the caveat to it is that when he takes that pain, he absorbs it temporarily. So he can't cure everybody. So there was going to be episodes where like if he's in a burning building, he can't cure everybody's wound at the same time because it'll kill him. So there's this whole thing about the notion of wanting to heal the world, and at what price are you willing to pay? Is he willing to die again to save a life? So, and if anybody takes that, it's copyright and TM. That's my show. So my question for you, Emily, is, okay, how about you could trade lives with any current superhero. Who would it be and why?
Oh. I don't know a lot of superheroes. I really don't. My friends make fun of me because I haven't watched any of the movies.
I'll do this. I'll say if you could trade lives with anybody for a day, who would it be and why?
I think it would depend on the day, but someone who I would like to walk a day in their shoes would probably be I think in the past it was probably Michelle Obama. Maybe not as First Lady is probably what I would do. But I mean, I would also like Simone Biles. Like I could be that athletic. Like that'd be really cool. And my PC is running low, so there's my answer.
Fair enough. Bridget, what's your last one for me?
What was your favorite board game growing up as a kid?
I feel like I was really good at it. Like I got to the point where I felt like I could guess it when the game started without even playing the game. I felt like I could see through the thing, and that's Clue. I would say Clue. Clue I'm good at. I like the game Trouble. I liked basic games, and my grandmother that lived to be almost 101, I call her G-Mama, she and I would always play War, which is just this card game that we always just would play all the time. We'd play it for hours, and I would get like almost the entire deck, and then she would come back because she had 3 aces, and we would just play forever. And on her 100th birthday, she sat at the table and played with me until 10:30, and everybody was like telling me like, make her go to bed, she should go to sleep. And I looked at her, I was like, you tired? She goes, no, you? And I go, no. And she goes, okay. And we played until everybody else went to bed. We stayed up and played the game, and I think that was the last time we played. So I will never regret the fact that we let that game go as long as we let it go.
It's a good story.
Thank
you.
Keep
that one.
I will. Yeah, I keep her very close. Bridget, mine for you is, okay, going off of that, who do you consider to be your biggest inspiration?
Without sounding like the cheesiest human alive, probably my mom. I'm one of 3, and we all had very different lives growing up. So all the hard work and dedication. She went back to teaching when I was in like 4th grade full time. So for her to be able to give so much to her students every day and then still be at every single one of my games or every single one of my sister's dance recitals or my brother's, crap, what did Matthew do? Band concerts, I don't even know. For her to be able to give all of that of herself to other people is just, and still be an amazing person and feel for everybody. It's my mom.
And that's not a cheesy answer. If that's who it is, that's the one. And incredible parents are sometimes there's no comparison to them at
Definitely.
all. I do love the fact that you're like, this is what my one's looking at it. I have no idea what the other one did. So
sometimes he's the youngest, so sometimes we forget what he does.
That's okay. It's fun. I hope he enjoys when he sees this. So Hodge, what's your last one for me?
Any good recommendations on places to go for a hike up your neck of the woods?
Yeah, there's some places in Oswego, the Bluffs. That's fun. And I'm one of those people that like, there's like a hook where you can kind of skid your way down, stop yourself, and then eventually get to the water, but then not know how to get back up. I like challenges. So if I wasn't with my dad that day on Father's Day, I probably would have done it. But yeah, I would say Oswego, the Bluffs is cool. And Skinny Atlas, the waterfalls out in Skinny Atlas are really cool. And there's in Ithaca, there's a few places out there too. And I would say Pathfinder Camp near Cooperstown, where I used to go every summer. There's a mountain named after a Native American, and it's called Nettie Bumpo. And that we climb that every summer in August. So that was really cool too. So I would say that.
Add them to the list.
All right, Hodge. What is the greatest piece of advice you've ever been given?
So the first one that came to my mind was I was at Marywood, and I can't even tell you the professor's name anymore. She taught in the English department, and we were all sitting there doing something, whatever it was, and then she just sat down and was like, listen, I'm going to tell you guys something that'll get you through your day. And we're like, okay, like what? And she was talking about how she had like just like a crappy drive to work, and how the way that she got herself out of it was to treat every single person like they're having the worst day of their life. She's like, I was pissed off in my car, and then it's because this guy cut out in front of me. He's like, and then I realized, well, what if he cut out in front of me because he's rushing to the hospital because somebody he knows is not well and he's got to get there. And you being pissed off is only going to make it worse. Or you're talking to somebody and you say something rude and you don't realize what they're going through at home. So it's the literally treat every person like it is the worst day of their life.
That's incredible. And that's
basic. It covers it all.
It does. I mean, there's really nothing to say after that. That's a mic dropping statement by that teacher.
Yep. She crushed it.
All right, Amy, what's your final one for me?
Other than a religious book, if you could only read one book for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and It's All Small Stuff. That book, which is right next to my bed. As a reminder, because I take notes, and then when I forget what I learned, I have to go back to it. So I would say that. Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. You had a unique response to Emily's inability to name a superhero. So I will say to you, if you could be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Oh, I love Ant-Man. He's my favorite because he can go anywhere and he's small and fast and he can hide. And it's like being a fly on the wall. Like if you're Ant-Man, like you can hang out in the Oval Office and see what's going on. Like I just think it's awesome. So that would be easily my favorite superhero.
Fair enough. I like that. Ant-Man. And it's the first time that anybody's ever given him some respect. So
because he's a little guy, they're mean to him. I mean, I'm short.
They don't respect him.
No.
So for Amy Sokaitis here with head coach Lebanon Valley, as well as Emily O'Donnell, the assistant coach of the Coast Guard, Bridget Walsh, assistant SID at King's College, and Caitlin Hadzimichalis here with us from the King's College head coaching side for women's basketball. I want to thank each of you for your time, and I look forward to doing this again. Y'all just like made me want to make this show be like 5 hours. So thank you for the experience. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the really great information we got to put out here. And thank you, above everything else, for being people in sports. You realize what I said there, Emily? People, not women, and in sports, not women's sports. So keep doing what you're doing, and thank you all so much for making this such an incredible conversation, and I hope that it moves somebody as you moved me today.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. That coming once again from those amazing people in sports. Fantastic conversation that's, I mean, genuinely, I don't have words for. I just don't. I mean, we got to talk about so many different things that are so important, and you got to see their personalities and what they care about and what moves them. I feel like you got to know each of them, while also as a team, we all agreed on what needs to change. So it was like 5 individuals, yet one common goal for things to get better in this world. And to have people on screen that want to make the world a better place, or, you know, for those of you that listened on internet radio, that's all that matters. You know, we're never alone. And I know on especially when it comes to doing something good or trying to be good, sometimes we feel like we're alone, and hopefully seeing us all on screen shows you that you're not alone. When you want to see the world get better, you're not alone. There's people out there every day trying to do the same thing. So a big thanks to Caitlin Hadzimichalis, as well as Emily O'Donnell, Amy Sokaitis, and Bridget Walsh. We'll be back on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora right after this fast break to wrap up today's show and get you set for TGIF.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecubal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Head out there, but make sure that you download their app before you go so you have everything at your fingertips, from their homemade breads and desserts to their quinoa bowls, rice bowls, salads, brick oven pizzas, and sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Ingrained in our taste buds and ingrained in our community, they're there on the Apple app or Google Play Store to download the Millhouse Market and have everything right there for you. They're open Tuesday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And when I say they're open, I can now proudly say, after everything we've navigated through this past year, they are open Tuesday through Sunday in their indoor dining as well as their general store and their drive-thru. They're all open Tuesday through Sunday during those times, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. Thank you to the Millhouse Market for all that you do. Our taste buds are always dancing when we come in. You support local companies like yourself. You're good to people. You navigated this storm with all of us, and you did it, in some ways, just looking effortless. Thank you for all that you are. You are truly, positively, without question, worth the drive every time. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being stated here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that joined me on the show today. You were all incredibly tremendous, from Papa Joe to Caitlin Hadzimichalis, as well as Bridget Walsh, Emily O'Donnell, Amy Sokaitis. This has been one of the shows that I was most looking forward to doing, because I know Papa Joe is filled with love, and I know he brings so much good and just positivity and faith. And then having, Hodge and Bridget and Emily and Amy, and Bridget and Emily and Amy made their debut on Wake Up Call in this broadcast, which I hope is one of many. I'm so excited. These conversations are amazing. They are fruitful. Hopefully they multiply, and we continue to help people out, because nobody should ever go to bed feeling unequal or unappreciated or underrepresented. Should never be like that. And there's so many good people in this world. And everybody deserves a voice. So y'all made it fun for me. That hour-and-a-half conversation to me felt like 10 minutes. And being able to do rapid fire and have so much fun, it was just so effortless to speak with each of you. So Hodge, Bridget, Amy, Emily, I cannot thank you enough. PJ, I love you every day of the year, times a million, and then times infinity from there. So for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, this has been an incredible show. And TGIF is coming up on April 9th. We'll have the annoying moment of the week, as we always do, at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, brought to you by Carvel DeWitt. We'll have Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be with my co-host Juanita Ward, who played women's basketball and is now an assistant coach for the Jackson State women's basketball D1 team, representing her hometown. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll bring you the top dog of the week, brought to you by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Campground Dog Boarding. And I will have a video with numerous Syracuse basketball alumni. It's going to be insane. So your screen is about to have a ton of people on it, and they come and go throughout the conversation, because we can't have everybody stay the whole time. But I'm excited that we will have Rex Trowbridge, Dale Shackelford, Brandon Reese, Roosevelt Bowie Jr., Sonny Spira, Gene Waldron, Jim Lee, Eric Santifer, and Dennis Duval all on the same screen tomorrow, starting at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. So buckle up for that one, too. Inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Cafe Kubal Studios are representing all locations of Cafe Kubal. Go fill your cup with whatever you'd like today, iced or hot, as well as all of their snacks and sandwiches and meals that they offer to you. The cold brew that you could take in the can and go. They have bags of coffee you can grab and go with as well. Cafe Kubal doing so much for us, so many different ways. You can even buy masks, and you can buy sweatshirts with that too. So 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse. And you can also go to their location in Manlius at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. And we're excited to see you all there. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, as you know, under promise, over deliver. Went to almost noon today, but you can tune in live every Monday through Friday, at least from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Watching on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. Once the show goes live, you can pick us up in the archives, and it's very, very easy to get to our archives. All you have to do is go to Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, MixLR, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Podbean and other avenues. Just by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, you'll find us on each of those. So make sure you search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And a proud thanks to all of our amazing partners: Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Honda City of Liverpool, Avicoli's, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Millhouse Market, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Find your way over to Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. You can go there online, and if you go online to Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com, you can use my promo code DT20 to get 20% off. And whether you're having it delivered to Florida, Pennsylvania, or wherever you are. And if you're going to pick it up here in central New York and upstate New York, you could still get the discount by going online and placing your order online for in-store pickup or delivery. Go to maandpazpopcorn.com and use my promo code DT20, and I will proudly get you 20% off. Shout out to Ma and Paz for making it possible. So, with all of that being stated, I thank you so much for being a part of Wake Up Call and everything we do with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, from Dan on Disney to Superpowered Pop to our live on-site shows with Liverpool and West Jenny, and the ones that we do at Cafe Kubal, what we've done with CNS, and so on and so forth. So I thank you for all of your love and support, and for every way you connect with all that we do on wakeupcalldt.com, superpoweredpop.com, and all of our social media. So thank you for that. Facebook, you can find us at wakeupcalldt, Twitter at calldt, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. And as I always tell you, God bless to each and every single one of you. No stress. Minimize that energy that you have working against you, and do your best, which is self-explanatory. Give it your all. And in the words of Mr. Feeney, he said, do good. And Topanga said, don't you mean do well? And he said, no, I mean do good. And that's what I'll say to you today. God bless y'all. I'll talk to you soon. You made this amazing. And every single day we keep raising the bar. God is good. You are good. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for all the conversations we get to have on the show. So thanks to each and every single one of you. To the world. Have a tremendous day.